Alchemy is the ultimate power move in this world. These masters tap into ley lines to forge legendary weapons and tools that defy common sense. Others take a peaceful path, brewing medicine to heal the sick. But our girl is grinding through endless potion orders until her body finally hits its limit. She collapses right in front of her stunned coworkers. That cold, hollow feeling in her chest is one she recognizes all too well. In her first life, she was a corporate slave at a Japanese trading company. The stress was relentless, and the office was her whole world. History is repeating itself. She remembers dying at her desk once before and realizes she just worked herself to death for a second time. A mysterious spirit reaches out to give her one more chance. She opens her eyes to a new life, reborn as a girl named Miriasfeel in a quiet village. In a moment of quiet peace, she makes a silent vow. No more overtime and no more stress. She is going to live the most peaceful life ever. Time passes and Miria is now all grown up, fully embracing her life as a village farm girl. She stops by the village chief's house to pay her taxes. The chief greets her warmly and notes how hard she has been working since her parents passed away. He gives her a gentle head pat, proud of the fine lady she has become. It has already been 12 years in this third life. She is far from nobility now, but she is perfectly happy with the simple countryside grind. She waves to her neighbors while leading her cow along the sunny village path. A neighbor stops her to share a massive basket of fresh wild vegetables. Miria is shocked by how much she was given. She promises to repay the kindness, but the neighbor lady says Miria is already like a big sister to her daughter, Kate. Even though they are actually the same age, Miria jokes about being invited over for dinner. Miria offers to share some of the food once it is cooked. Kate gets a little too hyped, leading her mom to call her a countryside pumpkin. Back at the ranch, the village warmth hits different as she arrives home, and she thinks this life might finally be the move. Except simple is a lie because she is out here grinding day and night. She is doing the work of two people just to keep the farm running. While she is wishing for even a brief break, a sharp snap breaks the silence. Something just went wrong. Her sickle is ruined after hitting a hidden rock. She is treating it like a legendary treasure, but is just a regular tool she cannot afford to replace. She is in a bind because she is broke and has nothing to sell in town. No sickle means no hay, and no hay means a very hungry cow. Speaking of the cow, Miko is just vibing in dreamland while our MC stresses out. She gives her a head pat, wishing she could be that carefree. Miko is the only family she has left, so she is determined to keep her fed no matter what. That look in her eyes says she is not giving up. Desperate times mean breaking the self-imposed seal on her past life skills. She locks in, focusing on the delicate temperature balance needed to pull out the right medicinal properties. The glow says it all. She just brewed an intermediate-grade potion capable of fixing some pretty nasty wounds. Actually, this is a bit too much fire. She looks over the high-quality results and figures a quick dilution is the only way to stay under the radar. Just like that, she has a set of low-grade potions ready for sale. Now she just needs a solid story if anyone asks where she gets her stock. It is a good thing she was hoarding those extra herbs just in case. The real test is seeing what these are actually worth. Since the locals haven't seen anything this clean, she is about to find out if she is sitting on a gold mine. This should be more than enough to cover the cost of a new sickle. She tells Miko to play it cool and guard the house while she makes the trip to town. Welcome to the frontier town of Corlight. Our girl decides the Adventurer Guild is too sketchy and heads for the Merchant Guild instead. Just as she enters, she gets a cheerful welcome. Receptionist Carla is already on it, asking if those potions are for sale. There is a membership deal, but Miria decides to skip the long-term commitment for now. She sticks to her guns and asks for a straight sale. Carla takes it in stride and invites her back for next time. The potion business is booming, and she walks away with a cool 4 gold and 8 silver coins. Next stop is the blacksmith, but she is praying the tools do not cost an arm and a leg. She meets Gan the blacksmith and picks out her new gear. He gives her props for having a good eye but warns her the price tag is 1 gold coin. That price is a total steal. She is grinning at the savings and decides to use the leftover cash for a shopping spree. Back at the farm, she checks out her new purchase. She picked up a magic stone for a slashing enhancement and heads over to the barn where Miko is waiting. Miria shows off her latest upgrade to Miko. It is a standard sickle, but she boosted it with alchemy and a leftover magic stone. Time to test the Kusanagi sickle number 2. She takes a stance, ready to show the cow exactly what high efficiency looks like. One swing and the entire field is cleared. Miko is stunned, but Miria is just flexing the power of attribute-infused gear. She is already dreaming of a life without manual labor. If she keeps selling potions on the low, she can automate everything from harvesting to cooking. Disaster strikes in record time. The sickle head snaps under the power, leaving her defeated. She is having a heavy meltdown over her broken investment. Apparently, dying from overwork is back on the menu if she cannot get this gear to hold together. Store-bought tools just are not built for this level of power. She is not quitting though, and heads inside to prep for another shopping trip. Miria stares down her empty coin pouch. She went way overboard on the shopping spree and now she has to go all out on selling her gear to recover. Back at the guild, she signs up for a membership to keep the supplies flowing. Carla hands over a sleek membership card that handles payments and balance checks on the spot. One look at the screen has her questioning reality. Her slashing enhancement stone sold for 30 gold coins, making her wonder how much the flashier fire or thunder stones would bring in. She tries to play it cool and makes a quick exit. Carla watches her leave with a heavy side eye while our girl starts planning a custom order with the blacksmith. Carlo is left processing the encounter. Seeing a kid read and understand a high-level contract is a major red flag in this world. The literacy is weird, but the magic stone is the real mystery. Carla stares at the gem, wondering how a child managed to source something with such powerful effects. Everything she brought in was top tier, which just does not add up. Carla considers the possibility of dilution before deciding to just take the profit and mind her business. She checks the stash and finds a collection of light pink potions. These are technically failed mid-grade brews, but they work way better than the standard low-grade green ones. Back at the house, she collapses onto her bed in total exhaustion. The long trip and the heavy bags really took a toll on her stamina. She face plants into the pillow, worrying that carrying all those magic stones will make her look too muscular. Still, she forces herself up to start working on the loot she just bought. It is time for a crafting montage as she spams spatial expansion buffs onto a magic stone. She has plenty of resources this time, so she goes all in before mounting the stone onto her pouch. The upgrade is a success, turning a basic pouch into a high-quality magic bag. Even though it looks cheap, the storage space is now massive. She realizes a single stone still has its limits, so she comes up with a classic gamer workaround. If one bag is not enough, she will just carry several at once. She stands tall with her new utility belt and declares the problem solved. It is definitely not a fashion statement, but she has enough stones left to start her next project. Chopping wood and hauling water is way too much work for our girl. She decides to solve her cooking problems by building a way to regulate the heat. She heads to the local blacksmith to pick up a special custom order. Gan presents a sleek new magic stove that fits her request perfectly. This machine is a hybrid oven and stove that runs on fire and ice magic stones. Gan is mostly just confused about why a kid is buying such heavy-duty appliances. The mechanics are actually pretty clever. By sliding the ice stone closer or further, she can basically treat it as a manual thermostat. No more burnt food for this former office worker. Even the blacksmith is impressed by the fact that they actually built a functioning magic tool. Gan offers to help carry the heavy unit home, but she just casually stuffs the entire stove into her magic bag. She does not even break a sweat. The blacksmith is having a real crisis. Seeing a village kid with a high-end luxury item like a magic bag makes no sense to him. Gan is having a total mental breakdown. He decides her family must have fallen from grace and tells her to hit him up if she's ever in trouble, but Miria is just confused by the sudden drama. Back home, it is time for a baking montage with the new magic stove. She cracks eggs, rolls dough, and pulls out a batch of perfectly golden cookies. The first bite is an instant win. The flavor is actually godly. She is basically ascending to flavor heaven as she enjoys the taste of her hard work. Self-control has left the building as she realizes she can never go back to just eating sweet potatoes. A few minutes later, the entire basket is empty and she is feeling the post-meal glow. She pats her full belly and thanks her parents for the wheat harvest. A moment of silence follows as she wishes they could have tasted her cooking too. She declares that her peak slow life is finally starting and asks her parents to watch over her. That peaceful vibe is immediately interrupted by a loud knocking at the door. Miria pauses mid-bite and turns toward the sound. She wonders who it could be and suspects it might be the kid from the neighboring house. Our girl panics, thinking the smell of cookies lured in the whole village. If they find her high-tech kitchen, her slow life dream is dead and she is back to working like a dog. She peeks through the door with crumbs still on her face and stammers that she is definitely not eating anything. The vibe shifts instantly as two serious dudes show up with a warrant. Miria can only stare in shock as they declare she is under arrest. Miria is shaking in her boots because apparently her slow life just got hit with a tax audit. The officers are not playing around and tell her to save her excuses for the station. A carriage ride later, the officer is genuinely baffled by what a kid could have done to get this kind of attention. Miria just lists off her side hustles like selling sweets and medicine. They arrive at the Lord's Manor where Baron Brown is waiting with a major accusation. He is convinced her income does not match her job and demands to know where she got a high-tier potion, but she just tells him she made it herself. The Baron slams the table and calls her a liar. Miria is stuck because she is the only apothecary in the area and cannot even think of a better cover story. She decides to stop talking and start doing. She tells them she will brew a potion right in front of them while the Baron looks on in disbelief. Our girl goes full master alchemist, adjusting temperatures and extracting properties with pure focus. The magic starts flowing as she handles the ingredients with insane precision. She finishes the job and produces a pink intermediate potion with exceptional effectiveness. The Baron and his men are absolutely floored by what they just witnessed. The officer looks at the record and is genuinely confused. The guild says you only sell low-grade stuff. Behind him, the experts are freaking out because this potion is better than anything in the capital, and Miria just hopes she did not accidentally break the economy. Miria holds up a bottle like it is nothing. I just diluted the good stuff with mana water. The crowd watches her pour it out and they are dying inside at the waist. The Baron and his crew are completely speechless. Miria just calls it casual handiwork for a rural village like it is a normal Tuesday. She just made a low-grade potion with top-tier effectiveness. The whole room just starts screaming, "Who does casual handiwork like that? Our girl is basically a cheat code and everyone knows it." Back at the village, the chief is finally getting the full story. He thought she was done for when the guards showed up. "I never imagined you could actually make potions." He hands over the official document to settle things once and for all. Here is the deal. To stay out of trouble, the Lord wants Miria to open a shop in town. The chief feels bad about the sudden move, but this is the only way to keep her slow life dream alive. The town has been without a doctor for years, so they are not letting her go. The chief is worried about her, but Miria puts on a brave face. She is going to miss her field, but the grind never stops. Miria has zero chill and threatens to turn her cow into dinner if she does not start moving. The village chief tries to calm her down while Miko keeps putting up a fight. The chief tells her to stop worrying and promises to look after the field and the cow himself. Miria can only watch as it finally sinks in that she is leaving her home behind. She gives one last look back with a soft smile and tells him to take care. After a quick visit to her parents' graves to say goodbye, Miria hears a voice calling out to her. She turns around to find a massive crowd of villagers waiting to see her off. Word traveled fast and everyone is genuinely sad to see her go. They start piling up parting gifts and let her know she is always welcome back if things get too tough in the town. Miria stops to thank the neighbor lady who looked after her when she was all alone. The vibes are heavy as they realize just how much they meant to each other. The lady admits that Miria was her biggest source of comfort after her husband passed away. They share one final quiet moment of mutual respect. Kate is trying her best to look tough, but she is clearly blushing while she looks away. Miria just gives her a gentle reminder to make sure she listens to her aunt while she is gone. The girl finally snaps and calls Miria a total idiot, yelling that she does not even need to bother coming back. It is pretty obvious she is just struggling with how much she is going to miss her. The neighbor lady just laughs and calls Kate a little sunder for her dramatic outburst. Kate immediately switches up and promises to visit whenever she can, leaving Miria to give one final thank you to the lady who raised her. With a huge smile and one last wave, Miria says goodbye to her friends and even her cow Miko. She is officially closing the book on her humble life in the countryside to start her new chapter. Even though this whole situation was forced on her, she is feeling surprisingly optimistic about the future. She is trading her heavy farm work for a small apothecary and a life with absolutely no overwork. After arriving in town, she starts checking her papers to find the address of her new shop. She stops dead in her tracks when she realizes her new workspace is actually a massive 3-story mansion. The scale of this place is actually insane for a single person. She wonders what the Lord is thinking giving a giant building like this to a 12-year-old when she just wanted a tiny little workshop. This shop is way bigger than she expected. She can handle the potions, but running the whole place alone is a fast track back to Overwork City. Carla is totally down for consignment sales. She starts drafting a commission-based contract while our girl celebrates the easy win. Approval secured. Miria starts unloading the massive stash of potions she prepped back home. The magic bag catches Carla's eye and she is immediately intrigued. Miria just shrugs it off as a low-effort scrap project with limited capacity. Leaning in with a look of pure business, Carla wants to know if those bags are for sale too. Miria tries to back out by citing material shortages and pricing issues. Carla shuts that down instantly, offering to handle all the logistics herself. The pressure is on for just one trial run. Miria finally caves, agreeing to make it a side hustle if Carla brings the materials. Miria takes the chance to restock her supplies, and Carla is more than happy to hand over a fresh batch of herbs for her next project. The second Miria is out of earshot, Carla loses her professional composure and celebrates securing the exclusive rights to the magic bags. Greg, the head of the Commerce Guild, slams the door open to find out why his receptionist is screaming while the Lord is waiting. Carla manages to calm down and explains the situation, confirming that their favorite new apothecary is officially on board with the project. The Baron stares at the bag design with a serious expression, fully aware that this girl is the key to a major breakthrough for the town. Not wanting to waste a single second, Carla spins around and sprints out the door to go hunt for the highest quality materials money can buy. Once the dust settles, the two men trade looks of disbelief as they wonder how a simple village kid could know such advanced alchemical secrets. The Baron is sweating bullets while Greg keeps his cool. They decide it is time to bring in the big guns and report this situation to the Marquis for some expert advice. Looking at Miria, the Baron realizes he might have bitten off more than he can chew. He was really hoping she would just stay put as a local apothecary for years to come. Cut to Miria, who is looking at a handful of dead herbs with pure disappointment. These things are beyond saving. She cannot believe the Commerce Guild messed up the storage this badly. Since the herbs are basically trash, she realizes she is going to have to do the hard work herself. Looks like a mountain trip is in her future. She is going to have to go out and gather some fresh supplies. The mountain life is no joke. Our girl is already struggling as she climbs her way up the steep terrain. She wonders why the good stuff only grows in the middle of nowhere. To make things easier down the road, she starts scouting for a permanent gathering spot nearby. A forest mud bear crashes through the brush right on schedule. It lets out a massive roar, but that is exactly what she was waiting for. Most people would run, but she just pulls out a brand new custom trident. She has been itching to see what this thing can really do in a real fight. One casual swing and the bear is already leaking. This blade cuts through thick hide like a hot knife through butter, and she is barely even trying. Turns out she traded her old sickle for a polearm to fix her reach issues. This upgrade from Gand is packed with magic stones for extra slicing power and a nasty electrical surprise. Time to stop playing around. She channels the full energy of the stones and sends a massive bolt of lightning straight into the beast. The woods light up as the high-voltage strike hits home. Just like that, the local threat is officially neutralized. Now she has a whole bear to deal with and zero interest in the messy cleanup. She starts thinking about paying the Geld to handle the butchering so she can avoid the manual labor. Standing over her kill, she reflects on the harsh training from her past life. Even after being reborn, the skills her master drilled into her stay sharp. Success. She finally tracks down the healing herbs she was looking for. These should keep her stocked with mid-level potions for a good while. She gets to work drying them out immediately. But then, she spots something that stops her in her tracks. It is a moonlight herb. This untouched wilderness is a gold mine, and she starts wondering what other alchemists are even doing. Finding high-grade materials out here is a massive win. Solo camping is a breeze when you can carry a whole kitchen in a magic bag. She dips her bread into the hot broth and takes a bite. This is the peak of comfort. Dipped bread is alright, but she is starting to crave soft loaves and starts planning how to get some yeast. Her mind is already racing with ideas for better tools to keep her monster meat fresh. Looking out at the view, she starts planning what to make with her new monster stone. She is one step closer to the comfy, civilized life she has been working for. Our girl heads straight to the Adventurer Guild to cash in on her latest hunting trip. She drops a massive bear carcass on the floor and asks for a quick dismantling service. The worker is stunned by the size of the beast and the giant hole blown through its chest. He cannot believe a little kid actually took this thing down, but she just plays it cool with a nervous smile. He lets out a massive laugh at the absurdity of the situation. Miria just stands there looking annoyed, wishing she could skip the social interaction and go home. She tries to pay the fee with her commerce card, and the guy completely loses it when he realizes she is already a member. He tries to invite her out for a drink, but she shuts him down immediately. Her social battery is officially at zero as she fills out the paperwork for a temporary membership. All she wants is a hot bath and a quick stop at the blacksmith on her way home. On her way out, she stops and looks back with a strange feeling. She wonders if she is just imagining things. Elsewhere, a messenger arrives at a grand manor with an urgent update for the Lord. A message from the Marquis has just arrived. The local lord relaxes as his messenger arrives with the latest update on the apothecary girl. It is finally time to see what all the hype is about as he prepares to read the report aloud. The contents are a massive shock, claiming she is a rare asset to the entire nation that needs secret protection. Hearing the word nation has the boss sweating over how high the stakes actually are. He realizes this is a heavy responsibility and starts stressing about who to assign for the shadow job. But his assistant leans in to reveal that the Marquis has already made a move. The scene shifts to the bustling town square where a mysterious new face appears. People are already wondering if this man could be the legendary sword saint himself. Our girl starts the day by grabbing some fresh bread from a local stall. She pays with a quick tap of her guild card and keeps it moving. As she walks away, she admires how easy it is to check her balance on the fly. She takes a closer look at the display and starts counting the zeros. The final total finally clicks and has her realizing she is officially set. That is way more money than she ever expected to see. She realizes the guild must have bought every single one of her high-grade potions for a premium. Instead of hoarding the gold, she decides to boost the local economy and heads straight to the workshop. Little does she know, a mysterious newcomer is already tailing her from the shadows. He cannot believe a kid this small is actually the master alchemist he was sent to track. She drops by the blacksmith and hands over some custom blueprints for her next projects. This time she is looking for a sealed refrigerator and a proper bathtub to upgrade her home life. Gan takes one look at the request and tells her the bathtub is going to be a problem. Miria starts panicking, wondering if the job is too big for him to handle. Gan breaks the news that a regular metal tub is a no-go because of rust. Miria is stunned, but Gand insists a woodworker is her best bet for this job. She realizes that water-resistant metals are basically non-existent in this local market. Gand feels bad for letting her down, but Miria is already plotting her next move. Our girl drops a bomb and asks if he can handle the build if she provides the rust-proof iron herself. Gan is lost, wondering if this kid is actually about to invent a new material from scratch. Gan decides to just roll with it since he knows her projects are always wild. She gets the green light to raid his scrap pile for raw materials. While she starts the extraction process, the shadow tracker watches from the window with a look of pure confusion. He has no clue why she is talking about stuff like chromium. The alchemy kicks in and sends liquid metal floating through the air for a perfect synthesis. The spy outside is having a mental breakdown, questioning if he just witnessed actual magic. Miria breaks down the science of alloys while Gan just stares. Meanwhile, the spy outside is wondering how he is supposed to put this into words for the Marquis. Miria breaks down the basics of synthesis like it is common knowledge. Gan is stuck on the fact that she reshaped iron without a single spark or heat source. Her definition of basic alchemy is clearly on a different level. She hands the aesthetic details over to the pro and agrees to the 20 gold coin fee. The deal is struck and she is already out the door. The next phase of her plan is already calling. Gand watches her leave and realizes he is dealing with a dual-class genius. Between the potions and the magic tools, her productivity is hitting national asset levels. She is moving faster than the local rumors can keep up with. The thought of overworking sounds like a nightmare, but her own to-do list is already miles long. She suddenly remembers the magic bag contract she completely glossed over. The side projects are starting to stack up faster than she expected. Restocking empty bottles is the next priority for her potion business. She makes her way back to check on the status of her orders. The inventory management never really ends for a dedicated crafter. The materials for the magic bag are surprisingly high quality and might even be wyvern grade. Miria decides to knock out the work right here in the lobby and asks for a desk. The speed of her decision-making leaves the staff completely behind. Right there in the guild, she initiates the spatial expansion enchantment. The bag begins to glint as the fabric warps to hold 10 wagon loads of cargo. She makes a high-level enchantment look like a casual warm-up. Miria drops the stats like it is no big deal, claiming the bag can hold 10 wagons worth of cargo. Carla is floored by the reveal but agrees to take it immediately while Miria just keeps the momentum going. Miria pulls out some rare moonlight herbs she found recently and starts planning a new recipe. The guild staff watches from the side, completely unable to guess what her next move is. She triggers synthesis sublimation right on the counter, managing quadruple water refinement and temperature control all at once. The process looks like high-level magic just floating in mid-air. The result is a set of advanced blue potions with maximum healing power. These things are top-tier items capable of fixing almost any injury. Carla can barely believe her eyes as the blue liquid begins to multiply right in front of her. Miria casually offers up the extras as if she is just clearing out her pockets. Miria leaves the items with a simple request to handle the rest. Carla realizes the weight of what just happened and starts screaming for the guild master at the top of her lungs. Greg tells Carla to calm down before she accidentally breaks the inventory. He spots the blue potions on the counter and realizes this bag has transcended anything they have seen before. Greg's jaw hits the floor as Carla lays out the facts. These aren't just normal items. Miriasfiel crafted a 10-wagon capacity bag and top-tier potions right on the spot. Official appraisal confirms the insanity. This bag holds 300 cubic meters of storage, and the blue potions can heal practically anything. Greg realizes this gear is way too high level for a local shop and needs a royal auction. Dollar signs start glowing in his eyes as he wonders just how much gold they're about to make. While the guild staff celebrates their new gold mine, the observer outside is making moves. He's convinced she's a master alchemist, but knows that flooding the market with this stuff will attract all the wrong attention. The risk is getting real as even foreign nations might try to kidnap her for her skills. The observer decides it's time to get a higher authority involved before things spiral out of control. Scene shift to the Royal Capital Auction Hall. The room is packed and the crowd is buzzing with anticipation as the main event begins. The final two items hit the stage, starting with the legendary blue potions. These things have zero market history, and the bidding kicks off at a staggering 10,000 gold coins. The bids are going absolutely nuclear as the crowd realizes these potions are the real deal. People are shouting out numbers they probably cannot afford just for a chance at this legendary medicine. A single hand cuts through the noise with a bid of 150,000 gold coins. The price just tripled in a heartbeat, leaving the rest of the bidders in the dust. Everyone is buzzing when they spot the butler for the prestigious Duke Forb family in the crowd. Standing next to him is a man who looks like he has been through 100 battles and lost most of them. The butler stares with intense focus because he knows this advanced potion is their only hope. To commoners it is a fortune, but to him it is a miracle that can restore what was lost. Once the deal is done, they head to a private room to collect the goods. The butler is visibly shaken, claiming this single bottle will finally fulfill their family long-cherished wish. He carefully unboxes the blue treasure and prepares for the moment of truth. He asks the young master to show his hand, revealing a thick layer of bandages that hide a serious injury. With steady hands, he begins pouring the glowing liquid over the young master. Rumors say this stuff can regrow lost fingers, and everyone in the room is holding their breath to see if it is true. The miracle actually happened. That single bottle just restored what everyone thought was lost forever. People are still questioning how this kind of magic is even possible. The auctioneer keeps the momentum going and brings out the absolute main event. The room goes nuclear for a magic bag that can hold as much as 10 wagons. A bidding war explodes as generals and merchants scramble for the logistical advantage. The price hits 200,000 gold coins in seconds. The heavy hitters realize an item this game-changing means the entire balance of power is about to shift. Someone capable of creating national treasures has finally emerged. Orders are issued for an immediate investigation to find this mysterious creator. Our MC is completely oblivious to the national manhunt she just triggered. This is revitalizing, and that is all she cares about right now. Miria is soaking in what looks more like a giant soup pot than a bathtub. She rigged up a flame magic stone to keep the water warm, even if the metal tub might not last forever. A hot bath is a luxury she is not skipping. Now she is daydreaming about proper soap and shampoo. Her homemade stuff apparently makes her hair shrink, so she settles for a little scented oil. Perks of being 12, she does not have to worry too much about a complex beauty routine. But the real prize comes after the bath. She pours a glass of milk that is actually ice cold. One big gulp and she is in heaven. The chill is exactly what she needed after that cauldron soak. Living the civilized life is the goal. She built a refrigerator to keep things fresh, proving that cold milk is the ultimate reward for her hard work. She looks back on all the nonstop grinding since she ended up alone. Finally, she has reached a point where she can actually enjoy a leisurely life. Her anxiety about overworking to death is finally fading away. Just as she is settling into the slow life vibes, a loud knock at the door ruins the moment. She heads over to see who is visiting this late. Miria's late-night chill is officially over. A knight just showed up with a direct order from the Marquisate, and he is not taking no for an answer. Her first instinct is to plead the fifth on any tax evasion charges. Then she stops and realizes this dude's face looks way too familiar. She calls him out for being the creep loitering around her farm lately. Turns out her past life instincts are sharp, and she only ignored him because he didn't have any murderous vibes. Now she is accusing him of being a high-tier kidnapper using fake titles. He just wants her to put the literal trident down before someone gets hurt. Time for some ID. He flashes a fancy medal to prove he is actually Blaze Galfield, a legit knight of the realm. The shiny badge is enough to convince her. She figures getting dragged away by nobles is just part of the job description when you are this cracked at alchemy. Miria is already prepping for the worst. Blaze can tell she is definitely misreading the situation, so he tries to set the record straight. Miria is officially under the Marquis's wing now. Blaze promises her she won't be treated badly while they travel. This news has her completely lost. She can't wrap her around why a high-level noble would care about her. Blaze explains that a top-tier alchemist traveling alone is basically asking for trouble. He brings up her rare potions and bags as proof of her value. Miria is still confused about why he thinks she is a big deal. He drops a bomb on her. Her simple items just sold for a staggering 650,000 gold coins at the capital auction. Miria starts panicking and tries to downplay her own work. She insists her creations aren't anything special. Blaze is just staring at her like she is insane. She starts listing all the reasons her gear is basic, like the storage capacity being way too small. She is convinced there are plenty of other alchemists doing the same thing. Blaze shuts down her excuses with a single sentence. There is actually no one else in the world who can match her skills. Miria is left completely stunned by the realization. Blaze doubles down, telling her point blank that there simply are not any other alchemists on her level. The reality of being a one-of-a-kind genius hits her hard, leaving her completely stunned. Sitting in the carriage, Blaze breaks the news that Miria's alchemy is actually a long-lost art. She is completely blindsided by the realization. Blaze explains that the world ran out of alchemists after working every single one of them to death. The demand was just too high for anyone to survive the forced labor. Miria starts questioning the timeline since she thought her reincarnation happened immediately. She asks him to clarify exactly when this was all supposed to have happened. According to Blaze, it has been over 1,000 years, which makes Miria realize the god who sent her here left out some major details. It finally makes sense why her potions are so rare. He explains that the government now hoards any talented person to research advanced alchemy, but the thought of them still struggling with the basics seems ridiculous to her. She treats the idea of them cracking her alchemy without a master like a joke. Blaze stays serious, reminding her that her existence is a matter of national security. Training some apprentices is actually fine with Miria as long as the deal includes 3 meals and a mandatory nap. This dude can barely process her casual attitude toward a national crisis. The dream of a slow life is officially dead as she watches her home fade away through the carriage window. She sighs, knowing there is no turning back from her new reality now. They arrive at the massive Marquisate mansion to face the man in charge, Lord Gart von Fahrenheit. He greets them from behind his desk, noting how far they have come to reach him. Miria turns on the charm and drops a professional curtsy as she introduces herself as Mirias Fourleaf. She is playing the role of a humble commoner perfectly. Her greeting hits him like a truck when he recognizes her specific salute as a lost art from ancient alchemical traditions. The Lord is visibly shaken by the discovery of such a rare talent. She offers to brew an advanced potion right then and there to show off her skills. Lord Gerhard stops her immediately, having seen more than enough to know she is the real deal. Gerhard formally declares that her safety is now under his personal protection from this moment forward. He tells her to work hard, and she accepts the deal with a calm nod. She ends the meeting with another deep bow of gratitude for the opportunity. With a national powerhouse now officially backing her, the little alchemist has secured her future. As they walk through the halls, Blaze is amazed at how fast her humble act disappeared. Miria just wants to know what she is actually supposed to be doing here. Her survival strategy is simple: just be polite and do what you are told. Blaze looks at her with a sweat drop, wondering where a kid learned to be this cynical. Blaze sighs as Miria asks for clarification on the meeting. He looks back at her and explains that she has caught the attention of the Marquis. When dealing with powerful people, the only real answer is yes or yes. Thinking about other options is just a waste of energy to her. She is still confused about what catching his eye actually means. Blaze explains that her skills are just too good to ignore, so they are giving her an official position instead of just a guard. He officially gives her the title of apothecary directly under the Marquis. She freezes in shock, wondering if she just became a high-class servant. He tells her to relax and head to her new room in the mansion. Miria is already glowing with joy at the thought of a high-class lifestyle. Miria walks into her new room and is absolutely floored by how massive it is. Blaze just stares at her like she is a weirdo for not expecting 5-star treatment. Calling herself a glorified handyman is basically a crime to Blaze. He gives her a reality check, reminding her that she is now a high-rank master apothecary. The master title is a bit too much pressure for a 12-year-old, so she asks to keep it on a first-name basis. She even throws in a cute nickname suggestion before he leaves to get dinner. Back in the office, Blaze reports that things went smooth with our MC. He mentions that she has got manners for days but really hates being formal. Blaze explains her yes or yes survival strategy, and the Marquis actually finds it hilarious. He decides to drop the formal act too since they are already vibing. Then comes the real win: she is willing to take on apprentices. The Marquis is stunned because that is way more than he could have hoped for. There is just one major problem: 0 people in his domain have the talent to keep up with her. He looks out the window, realizing his plan has hit a major roadblock. Blaze drops a bombshell before she even gets a chance to nap. She is being shipped off to the royal palace immediately. Her dreams of a slow life are being dragged away. Since she agreed to take on students, she has to go where the talent actually is. He explains that any kid with actual talent is already locked up in the palace. When she worries about students respecting a little girl, he gives it to her straight. She asks for a little bit of flattery to make the move easier, but this guy is way too honest. He even tells her to drop the formal titles and just call him Blaze. Calling out his lack of social skills does not even faze him. He is just glad she is not high maintenance, even if his delivery is a bit rude. The scenery changes as they head toward the capital. She is still reeling from how fast her quiet life turned into a royal appointment. Her list of unfinished projects is haunting her. She did not even get around to making sugar, cakes, or air conditioning before being whisked away. She's already trying to negotiate her future hobbies at the palace. She asks if making sweets or magic tools is a no-go, but Blaze looks like he's already losing his mind. Before he can even process the request, their conversation gets a rude awakening. Someone just forced the carriage door open with a massive bang. It's a full-on ambush, but Miria follows the on-site protocol. She dives out with a first-strike mentality and douses the attackers before Blaze can even draw his sword. The bandits are legit offended that a kid is throwing water at them. Little do they know she's just setting up a high-voltage combo with her lightning magic. One massive zap later and the whole squad is toasted. Our girl just drops a peace sign over the smoking bodies like she didn't just commit a war crime. Blaze finally catches up and delivers a swift reality check to the top of her head. He is definitely not vibing with her reckless solo carry. She's left nursing a bump while he vents about how she nearly gave him a heart attack. Apparently, guarding a genius means dealing with constant near-death experiences. Miria brushes off the bandit attack as beginner-level stuff, leaving Blaze completely speechless. Her logic is simple: if you can take down monsters, thugs are just a minor inconvenience. They cannot just leave a mountain of bandits on the road, so they decide to tie them up. Reporting them to the local town is the play. Miria's experience with monster carcasses makes her a pro at hog-tying human beings. Blaze is officially concerned about her past as they leave the trussed-up criminals behind. Blaze asks her to let the professional handle the fighting next time, but she is not hearing it. He just sighs and accepts that his charge is a one-girl army. They hit the waypoint town of Akurumal and Miria immediately switches into tourist mode. Blaze goes from elite knight to professional bag holder in record time. Shopping mission complete. She is living her best life right now. The fancy inn has Miria convinced she has finally hit the jackpot for her slow life goals. When Blaze explains this is just the standard perk for her job, she starts picturing a very comfortable future at the palace. Miria is lounging on the bed, trying to convince herself that living in luxury won't ruin her skills as an alchemist. Blaze isn't having it though, and he immediately pivots to tell her that it absolutely makes a difference. Miria drops some alchemy lore, explaining that energy channels from the Li lines through the feet. Since a weak body makes the magic unstable, she thinks her future students should run daily laps around the entire capital. Blaze has to step in and tell her that her training regimen would just make them collapse on the spot. The carriage ride hit hard, leaving Miria drained for the night. Staring at the ceiling, she lets the chaos of the last few days catch up to her. Silence finally takes over as the fatigue wins. Our girl flops onto the bed with a heavy sigh, feeling the full weight of that long carriage ride in her bones. Staring at the ceiling, she tries to process the whirlwind of the last few days. Silence takes over as she just stays there, drained of energy. Staring at the ceiling, Miria finally lets the weight of that 1,000-year time jump sink in. She thinks back to her old master and rivals, knowing now that their entire legacies have been wiped from the map. It is a heavy realization that she is the last one standing from her original era. Miria lies in the quiet luxury of her room, coming to terms with a painful truth. She picked up alchemy hoping to find a connection to her past, but even the descendants of her old rivals have vanished from history. No point in overthinking the past. Reaching toward the empty space above, she swears that history is not repeating itself on her watch. She is tucked in and dreaming of that sweet retirement life. She is determined to secure her slow life at any cost. Blaze is strictly on a schedule, promising she can eat once they hit the capital. Miria is just salty she missed out on the local snacks from the last town. The reality of medieval travel hits hard with zero suspension on wooden wheels. Blaze is over the constant complaints about his high-end carriage. Miria suggests rubber tires, leaving the fantasy knight completely baffled by the concept of suspension. Now she is mentally drafting a plan to find some rubber trees. Dealing with low-tech travel is a struggle, so she is already considering building an airship just to skip the traffic. Blaze just wants her to chill out and not exhaust herself. Despite the bumpy ride, she actually manages to pass out. It turns out her past life of sleeping at the office was the ultimate training for this. Blaze signals the end of the line. They have finally reached their destination. A loud shout came from the carriage window as the destination finally appeared on the horizon. A sprawl of stone and towers stretched across the entire valley floor. The carriage pulled up to a ridge overlooking the royal capital. They finally reached the Marquisate residence in the capital. It is a massive estate, and Blaze lets her know this is her new home while she commutes to the research center. Miria is taken aback by the sheer scale of the place. When asked if she is skipping dinner to sleep, she immediately shuts it down since she has only had breakfast. They sit down at a lavishly set table for a proper meal. Dinner starts with a high-ended appetizer made from northern apples and fruit vinegar normally served to royalty. Miria dives in, clearly enjoying the upgrade from her usual farm food. She reflects on the crazy jump from eating plain potatoes on a farm to having full-course meals in a mansion. Blaze notes that for a country girl, her table manners are surprisingly polished. Inside, she is bragging about her third life experience, but since she cannot say that out loud, she just laughs it off. She claims she is just following the lead of the person right in front of her. Blaze is relieved she does not need an adequate crash course before meeting the big shots. As long as she keeps up her current act, he thinks she will blend in just fine. He drops a warning that some of the apprentice candidates will be noble kids, so she needs to keep the peace. Miria acknowledges the news, already sensing a potential headache from dealing with noble brats. Alchemy is basically a dumping ground for noble kids with no other options, and Miria is not holding back. Blaze tells her to keep that energy hidden before she gets them both in trouble. She just wants the nobility to leave her alone so she can live her best life. She is already imagining a classroom full of spoiled brats who refuse to listen to a single word she says. Blaze reminds her that dealing with difficult people is just part of the job. Her dreams of a cozy slow life are slipping further away by the second. After a quick carriage ride, they pull up to a large stone tower that looks more like a fortress than a lab. Miria steps out with a look of exhaustion before the workday even begins. There is zero rest because her first shift starts the very next morning. To make matters worse, they forced her into a fancy new outfit that she is definitely not vibing with. The Margrave family is clearly in a hurry to see results, and Miria is already feeling the pressure. Blaze mentions that since the lab is separate from the palace, things might actually be a little more relaxed. They reach a set of ornate double doors that look way too fancy for a research center. Blaze grabs the handles and pushes them open while Miria prepares to face her new reality. Blaze and Miria are welcomed by a polite voice the moment they step through the doors. Miria is shocked to find a maid standing ready to serve them in a science lab. Barbara introduces herself as a daughter of the foreign noble family and the manager of the research building. Blaze formally presents Miria as the lead alchemist of the territory, and she offers a polite greeting to her new boss. Miria is internally screaming because her manager is a high-ranking noble. She also realizes that being the lead alchemist is just a fancy way of saying she is the only employee in the building. Barbara says Miria matches the rumors perfectly and turns to show her into the new laboratory. Miria is already sweating from the pressure of the noble presence. The workspace is stocked with expensive-looking equipment and specialized tools. Barbara tells her to use whatever she wants, and Miria is clearly impressed by the top-tier setup. Miria immediately asks if they have any moonlight or spirit herbs in the stockroom. Barbara just blinks, looking lost at the mention of the rare plants. The building manager admits she has never heard of those herbs in her life. It looks like Miria's ancient knowledge is way too advanced for anyone in this era to understand. Finding someone to do the legwork for her ingredients is the ultimate dream come true. Barbara hands over a procurement form, promising to hunt down whatever our MC needs. The vibe shifts immediately when the staff realizes Miria isn't just making basic snacks. The idea of mass-producing top-tier potions has everyone in the room sweating. Barbara finally understands why the kingdom is so desperate for her to take on some students. Meanwhile, Blaze is having a mini-crisis because he thought Miria's research days were over. Barbara hands over the keys to the kingdom, or at least to the new lab. She heads back to the desk, leaving the heavy lifting to the world's most overqualified 12-year-old. The door slams shut and Miria finally drops the polite act. She is ready to throw hands with Blaze for lying about how relaxed this noble manager's situation would be. Dealing with high-ranking nobles is basically a full-time job in itself. Miria starts checking the cabinets while realizing that saying no to these people isn't even an option. A little healing grass is all she needs to get some mid-tier potions going. Blaze thinks the process sounds easy, but Miria shuts that down by explaining the nightmare of quadruple synthesis magic. Blaze wants to know what happened at the Commerce Guild. Miria explains that whoever was tailing her definitely saw her skills in action. Our MC drops a quick tutorial on synthesis levels. She uses quadruple magic just to speed through the advanced potions, showing off her insane efficiency. Everything she does is for the sake of a future slow life. She laughs off the idea of only making a few bottles, because an alchemist has to be efficient or go home. Blaze is starting to realize that being this good at her job is just an invitation for more paperwork. He sees her as the real deal, even if it means more trouble for him. She whips up a batch in record time, but something about the result is bugging her. The herb quality in the capital is trash, limiting her to mid-tier results. Blaze thinks it might just be variation in the process, but he clearly does not know who he is talking to. Our girl takes the insult personally, proving her skill is flawless with a bottle from her own private stash. Without the freshest ingredients, the average alchemist has no chance of matching her output. Blaze suggests adding specific storage instructions to the request form to keep the herbs fresh. Miria agrees and finishes up her paperwork, planning to drop it off at the reception desk immediately. The duo arrives at the research building reception to submit their requests. Miria hands over some bottles, but the receptionist looks a little skeptical about the sudden visit. Our MC casually drops some samples to prove her point about herb quality. Barbara almost has a heart attack when she realizes she is holding top-tier intermediate potions that should never be handled this lightly. Barbara enters full panic mode after seeing how little Miria values her own legendary work. She screams at the girl to never leave such national treasures unattended in a public area again. As they walk away, Blaze asks if she finally understands how reckless her actions are. Miria just shrugs it off, feeling like she is finally getting the hang of life in the capital. The workday is officially in the books and they manage to survive without any major disasters. Miria stretches out, feeling proud of making it through the day in one piece. The piece is short-lived because the real boss fight is just beginning. Miria sits in stony silence as she prepares to endure the absolute nightmare of a rattling carriage ride back home. Blaze points out her previous nap as proof she can sleep anywhere. Miria insists that was just a one-time fluke of exhaustion. The constant rattling has her dreaming of a faster commute. She considers using magic stones for power, but realizes she is missing a proper energy source for anything fancy. A sudden spark of genius hits her as she imagines a horseless carriage. Blaze is baffled by the sudden outburst, but he offers to introduce her to a master blacksmith who can handle the precise machinery. Our MC is already dreaming of starting a full-blown industrial revolution with ships and railways. She is so hyped that she demands they detour to the shop right this second. Cut to the workshop in the capital. A burly man named Ted looks up from his work and recognizes Blaze immediately. Ted assumes it is time for the knight's usual sword maintenance. Blaze corrects him, explaining that he is actually here to help a high-ranking alchemist find a partner for a special project. Miria introduces herself as a master of her craft. Ted is clearly caught off guard as he was expecting some old sage instead of a young girl. Ted is immediately high energy. He shakes her hand vigorously, thrilled to meet the young master alchemist. Miria dives straight into the details of her previous inventions. She describes her custom heating cooker and refrigerator designs to the impressed blacksmith. Scanning the blueprints, Ted realizes he is looking at something revolutionary. He admits he has never seen magic tools like these and asks to help build more. The blacksmith gives a confident thumbs up, claiming the job is a piece of cake. Miria then pulls out her personal trident and asks for some routine maintenance. Both men are floored by the quality of the weapon. They do not understand why a researcher needs a combat spear, but Miria explains it is for self-defense during herb runs. Miria admits she cannot rely on the local research teams for the rare materials. She casually mentions that the specific spirit herbs she needs usually grow right next to dragon nests. Blaze and Ted look horrified by her casual attitude toward danger. Miria just shrugs, claiming that surviving dragon territory is a standard graduation test for alchemists. Ted's reaction is so loud that our MC has to plug her ears. Blaze figures they need a backup weapon since Miria keeps running toward danger, so he asks the blacksmith for a quote on a top-tier sword. 100 gold coins for a blade that won't break. Blaze is still doing the math in his head, but Miria is already plotting something big. Since she is sitting on a mountain of auction gold, she tells Ted to forget the price tag. She wants the ultimate weapon with zero budget limits. Blaze is trying to be the voice of reason, but it is too late. Miria tells the blacksmith to give her his best work without holding back. Ted wonders if he is being tested by a literal child. She just smirks and asks if he is finally ready to challenge his limits. The blacksmith is officially fired up and promises to create a masterpiece. They decide to cram a massive magic stone into the blade to create the legendary Raijin sword, leaving Blaze to regret ever introducing these two. Miria holds up the finished magic stones, but she looks like she just realized something. Miria facepalms after realizing she accidentally crafted a legendary thunder blade instead of a basic tool. Blaze just stands there, wondering how she managed to fail upwards this hard. She tries to play it off as a strategic investment to help the local economy. Blaze isn't buying it, reminding her that a 12-year-old shouldn't be sounding like a seasoned economist. Miria is practically vibrating with excitement for the finished product. Even the stoic knight has to admit he is interested to see what she cooked up as they walk through the capital streets. Back at her quarters, the slow life is starting to feel a little too slow. Miria sighs as her potion-making routine gets repetitive, admitting she actually misses the thrill of the hunt. Just as she is about to resort to making soap to kill time, the door slams open. A maid bursts into the room with an urgent message, cutting the boring afternoon short. The apprentices are arriving early, and the news has Miria completely blindsided. Blaze just smirks, noting that she finally got the excitement she was complaining about. There is zero time to process the chaos as the maid drags our MC away to get dressed. Apparently a noble is in the group, so she has to look the part whether she likes it or not. Blaze brings up her own yes or yes policy, but she isn't having it. A heads up would have been nice before dumping apprentices on her. The reality of teaching a group of random disciples is already giving her a major headache. Miria lets out a heavy sigh as she prepares for the inevitable chaos. Looking at her new students, it is clear this group is going to be a handful. From the overconfident smirkers to the shy newcomers, trouble is definitely brewing on the horizon. The scene opens with Miria suited up and ready to meet her new squad of apprentices. This mentoring gig is already shaping up to be a massive headache before she even says hello. A peaceful life is still the dream, but playing mentor to a bunch of ambitious students is basically the ultimate nightmare. Miria turns on the charm and reveals she is the chief alchemist directly under the Marquis. The news leaves the new recruits absolutely speechless as they process her insanely high rank. Watching them struggle to believe her status has Miria feeling pretty smug. She tries to keep her cool with a quick cough to hide the fact that she is low-key loving the attention. Barbara steps in to remind the group that Miria is a literal potion-making prodigy who deserves total respect. The apprentices quickly snap out of it and promise to behave. Miria keeps it friendly with a handshake for the first candidate to break the ice. Blaze watches from the side, just glad that some of these kids seem normal enough to work with. Alma and Lyle officially introduce themselves as the newest students ready to learn the craft. Miria welcomes them with a smile, but the third guy in the group is already radiating major hater energy. This new guy Eddie isn't buying the hype for a second. He points a finger and shouts that there is no way a commoner girl like Miria can actually brew real potions. He keeps rambling about how it took him years just to master mid-tier recipes while Miria claims to be an expert in the advanced stuff. Miria can already tell from his aura that she is dealing with a classic annoying noble brat. Eddie doubles down and claims that nobody her age could possibly master alchemy. Barbara tries to shut him down by mentioning that the Marquis personally vouches for her skills. Having to prove herself over and over is becoming a total drag. She pulls out an advanced potion bottle and asks if this is enough proof to finally end the debate. Eddie's face goes pale as he realizes she is holding something even the highest nobles struggle to find. He practically has a heart attack and yells that she shouldn't be carrying such a valuable item around like it is nothing. Now that they finally believe she is the real deal, it is time to get down to business. Alma is already geeking out while Eddie looks like he is still processing his defeat. Miria leads them into the courtyard and explains that she is going to check their resonance one by one. She makes it clear that only the ones who can handle her knowledge transfer ritual will actually get to stay. Miria keeps it real and warns the group that most people won't even be a match. Lyle raises his hand and asks for the details on how this whole ritual works. She breaks it down as a way for a master and student to share a mental library. Lyle looks pretty confused by the concept. Inheriting this archive means skipping years of lectures to be on her level. Alma is already totally hyped by the idea. This system is built on generations of alchemist experience. It uses the world's ley lines to store and transfer massive amounts of data. Eddie still isn't convinced. He thinks the claim that they can make top-tier potions this easily is just straight-up ridiculous. Miria explains that her own skills come from sitting on all that accumulated knowledge. She says it is the only reason she can brew the high-level stuff. Eddie steps forward to see if she is actually telling the truth. Miria claps her hands and asks who wants to be the first one to take the test. Miria decides to put Eddie's ego to the test and tells him to start meditating. She wants to see if he can actually handle the mental archive ritual without his brain melting. The connection backfires instantly with a massive shock that sends both of them reeling. Miria groans about their terrible compatibility while Eddie screams in pure agony. Eddie isn't taking the rejection well and starts screaming that Miria is nothing but a total fraud. He is convinced that the failure is her fault and not his own lack of talent. Before the bratty noble can do anything stupid, Blaze steps in and face plants him into the dirt. The knight makes it clear that the tantrum ends right now. Blaze gives him a look that could kill and tells him he's done enough for one day. Eddie finally realizes he is way out of his league and starts shaking in his boots. Barbara bows deeply and apologizes for the chaos while Eddie retreats into the distance. He keeps shouting threats over his shoulder, but nobody is actually taking him seriously anymore. Miria just laughs the whole thing off and admits she forgot to mention one very important detail. It turns out the ritual is basically impossible between strangers because it requires a massive amount of mutual trust to work. Miria explains that these high-level rituals usually depend on a blood connection for the best results. Lyle starts to worry since they are basically just random strangers meeting for the first time. Miria cuts through the tension with a single finger raised. She mentions that there are exceptions to the rule for those who truly click. Her own master was not a relative, but their shared dreams made the connection possible. She believes a deep bond can bridge any gap in heritage. The plan is to start building that resonance from scratch. She lets them know that as long as they get along, the ritual has a real shot at succeeding. Alma is totally on board, admitting she much prefers a cute master over a terrifying one. Lyle tries to play it cool and says he will be okay too. Getting all flustered, Lyle tries to clarify that his excitement is about the opportunity and not just the aesthetics. He feels like he hit the lottery with this apprenticeship. Lyle is determined to master alchemy as fast as possible to save as many people as he can. Miria likes the spirit and gives the green light to finally start the training. Miria confirms that Lyle is officially joining the team as her new apprentice. The poor kid looks like he just peaked in life, barely able to process the upgrade from stranger to student. The group gathers as Barbara offers her congratulations while Miria breaks down the magical fine print. Their spirits are in perfect sync, which is exactly what she needs to pass down her ancient knowledge. There is a catch though, because the training requires them to live together to keep that resonance strong. Lyle is a total mess of nerves, stuttering out a promise to do his absolute best under her roof. Cut to a meal on the terrace where things get unexpectedly awkward. Miria decides to get hands-on with the training and tries to feed him herself, leaving him blushing as he tries to maintain some dignity. She is completely committed to the bit, telling him that accepting her kindness is a vital part of the process. Having no choice, he takes the bite while wondering how his life turned into a rom-com. Blaze is definitely not a fan of the new living arrangement and questions if they really need to be together day and night. Miria just brushes him off with a tease about his jealousy while the other girls have a laugh at his expense. The knight keeps the lecture going, warning her that being this forceful could cause a massive scandal with future noble students. Miria is genuinely confused, insisting her motherly approach is the definition of gentle. Lyle is wondering if he even deserves this level of VP treatment. He looks like he is about to short-circuit from the pressure of it all. Alma is desperate to prove her worth, but Miria just brushes it off with a smile. There are zero requirements for her trust because they are already vibing. Miria breaks down the magical science, explaining that their souls are basically on the same frequency as the ancient masters. It is a high-level concept that leaves the kids looking more lost than ever. Since the magical archive itself gave them the green light, their qualifications are already set in stone. Their destiny was sealed before they even sat down for tea. Miria locks in on Lyle, admitting he is the only one for the job despite them barely knowing each other. The kid is frozen in place while trying to process the sudden heavy spotlight. She is calling this meeting fate and making it clear she will not be letting him escape. He is officially part of the squad whether he likes it or not. Lyle is hyped and ready to go while Blaze watches the whole chaotic scene from the sidelines. The tea party is officially over and the real training begins now. Blaze smirks, feeling like things are finally moving in the right direction. Outside, the leaves are falling as the moment of truth arrives. Miria gives our boy Lyle a pep talk, telling him not to stress if the first try is a flop. She is ready to start the ritual while Lyle gives her a determined nod. Step 1 is just simple meditation, exactly like their compatibility test from before. Miria places a hand on his shoulder to ground him as he centers his focus. A sudden gust of wind kicks up as Lyle drops to his knees. A shift in the atmosphere signals the connection is deepening. Success on the first try. Lyle is surrounded by floating books as he realizes he has officially accessed the archive. Miria is low-key shocked at how fast they pulled this off. It is normally impossible to link up this quickly without a deep family bond. Lyle admits he can feel Miria right beside him in his mind. She takes a victory lap for her proactive training style while Blaze just watches from the sidelines. Miria is out here venting that leading this many students requires the mental strength of a mother of a large family. Lyle basically tells her she already fits the description, and she is definitely not a fan of that vibe. Lyle is hyped to start brewing some top-tier potions, but she puts a hand on his shoulder to slow him down. Potions are cool, but she has a much more important lesson to teach him first. The big secret to being a master alchemist is apparently learning how to bake delicious cookies. Lyle is looking at her like she is crazy while she just gives him a wink. She explains that potions can heal the body, but the heart stays broken without a fulfilling life. Our boy is fully sold on her philosophy and promises to master everything from food to clothing. Lyle is literally drooling at the thought of making snacks as good as hers. She is hyping him up while Blaze stands in the back, making sure they do not forget to feed him too. Things get deep for a second as she tells him to never lose his peace of mind. No matter how much he is grinding, he has to remember to breathe or else. She casually mentions that overworking will lead to a literal death, then just starts laughing it off. Lyle and Blaze are both sweating while she treats her past trauma like a funny punchline. Miria tells him he can laugh for now, but she is dead serious about passing this mindset down to her apprentices. She is determined to break the cycle of overwork before it even starts. A dark memory of the past shows alchemists who literally work themselves to death, a cycle she refuses to repeat. She is putting all her hope into this new legacy, trusting that her apprentices will finally find the balance she never had. Looking out over the meadow, she can feel the start of something big. The history of alchemists is officially being rewritten, and her legacy is finally moving in a better direction. Lyle is gassed after a brutal training session. Miria is right there to hype him up with a towel and some much-needed praise for the grind. Blaze is low-key confused why an alchemist is doing heavy cardio instead of mixing potions. Miria breaks it down for him, explaining that Lyle's potions are mid because his body cannot handle the mana flow yet. The archive is a cheat code for knowledge, but it cannot fix a weak physique. You have to put in the actual effort to build a body that can circulate mana properly. Blaze tries to roast her for not looking particularly athletic herself. She immediately gets salty, insisting that she is not trying to turn her students into bodybuilders. Things get real when she reveals that self-defense is a mandatory part of the curriculum. You cannot call yourself a full-fledged alchemist if you do not know how to handle yourself in a fight. Ancient masters were not just sitting in labs, they were out in the world refining their combat skills against monsters. Blaze looks like he is questioning his entire life as he listens to her wild training lore. Whether it is mastering martial arts or enchanting weapons, every alchemist has to find their own path. It is all about discovering the specific combat style that matches your personal vibe. Miria tells him straight up that he needs to find a combat style that fits his vibe and master it. Lyle is all in, promising to test out different methods until something clicks. Blaze admits that knowing how to scrap is a solid plan, especially since Lyle is staying at the lab where he cannot keep an eye on him at all times. Miria wonders why he cannot just move into the Marquis estate, but Blaze shuts it down. Apparently, the political bigwigs are already sweating about the Marquis hogging all the talent for himself. Things get complicated because rumors say talent is hereditary, and with Lyle almost being an adult, the pressure is real. Every time Blaze tries to move him or get him guards, someone finds an excuse to block the play. Our boy is just standing there catching strays of confusion. He does not even have family, so all this talk about bloodlines and adulthood is going way over his head. Lyle's brain finally connects the dots and he starts panicking, thinking they are talking about him starting a family. Miria just rolls with it, casually mentioning that the archive knowledge needs a decade to settle before anyone can even think about passing it down. She starts weighing the options, wondering if raising a kid might actually be a good idea. Lyle's soul basically leaves his body as he shouts at her to chill out. Lyle is stressing because Miria reveals that teaching this stuff is just as hard as learning it. If she messes up the transmission, the whole ancient legacy could just vanish. Blaze starts losing his mind when he realizes the politics are already starting to get messy. Apparently every noble in the country is already spamming them with requests for new apprentices. Miria shuts that idea down immediately. If building an army of top-tier alchemists was easy, they wouldn't be as rare as legendary items. Lyle feels the weight of the world on his shoulders, wishing Alma was here to help carry the load. Miria just stares off into the distance, wondering how her other student is doing. She laughs it off, reminding him that Alma is safe under noble protection. There is zero reason to stress when she is already living the dream. Time to head back to the estate and tell the world that the shop is officially closed. Before they leave, Miria pulls out a surprise gift for our boy. Lyle thinks he just scored some exotic food, but it turns out to be a bar of handmade soap. Miria tells him straight up that he smells like a gym locker and needs to clean up. Our boy is losing his mind because soap is a luxury flex, but Miria tells him to chill. It is just a handmade gift, so there is no need for the panic. Lyle is stunned that alchemy can even create basic household items. Blaze just shrugs it off, figuring alchemy makes every craft look like easy mode. She drops a quick tutorial on how to turn herbs and oil into high-quality cleaning supplies. It is basically a chemistry lesson disguised as a crafting recipe. Market soap is usually just bottom-tier animal fat and lye. Her alchemical version smells better and hardens faster for that premium feel. She drops some wisdom about the archive, telling them the path to mastery is a long grind. Blaze is just standing there with zero clue what they are even talking about. After waving goodbye for the day, Miria starts overthinking the reward. She wonders if a snack would have been better and immediately starts brainstorming new recipes. Blaze catches that look in her eye and knows she is thinking about food again. She gets super defensive, insisting she is doing it for the team and not just for her own cravings. Back at the Marquis Mansion kitchen in the capital, Blaze is already reaching his limit, but Miria is standing her ground and refusing to call it a day. The head chef Klaus steps in to handle the heavy lifting. He shows off his technique for getting those perfect cream peaks, and Blaze is ready to jump in and help out. Klaus absolutely crushes the task, leaving Miria and Blaze stunned by his professional speed. Our girl is hyped to have a real expert backing her up in the kitchen. The final result is a batch of raspberry cookie sandwiches that look straight out of a 5-star cafe. Blaze and Miria waste zero time diving in for the taste test. One bite in and Miria is already in heaven. Klaus is genuinely shocked that just whipping cream could create such a game-changing texture, but our girl just casually calls it whipped cream. The treats are great, but Miria admits the flavor is a bit bland and wants it sweeter. Klaus explains that sugar is a total luxury item, making it way too expensive to use in big batches. Miria starts brainstorming how to extract sugar from local plants like sweet stems or roots. Klaus is all ears, ready to take notes on her revolutionary kitchen hacks. Miria decides to leave the kitchen to the pro, promising to drop all her secret recipes for him to research. Klaus is stunned that she has even more high-tier knowledge stashed away. The chef is all in and promises to handle the rest. Miria is loving the help while Blaze just stands there looking like he is already tired of the cooking experiments. Back in her workspace, to save Blaze from a literal arm workout mixing cream, Miria decides it is finally time to invent a mechanical mixer. She starts by pulling raw materials from her blacksmith or stash and shaping the liquid metal with paper. A simple rod is the first piece of the puzzle for her new build. Dreaming of modern convenience, she really wants a full-on electric mixer. She knows a motor needs a permanent magnet, so she starts brainstorming the components. The blueprint is set. Insulate the rod, wrap it in copper wire, and juice it with a magic stone to turn the iron core into a magnet. Miria tests her skills by turning copper into liquid and pouring it through a paper funnel. She is basically treating high-level alchemy like a simple science project. Miria is stunned by her own alchemical flex, turning solid metal into a liquid wire thinner than anything current tech can touch. It works like a charm. Time to juice it up with a lightning magic stone. A massive surge of energy fills the room, leaving Blaze sweating as he walks into a literal smoke show. Miria panics over the burnt smell, realizing her paper insulation wasn't exactly fireproof. Just a casual science experiment in the middle of a fantasy world. Miria pulls it off and celebrates her new creation. She officially invented the permanent magnet, leaving Blaze completely lost in the sauce. The blueprint is simple. Add a coil and a switch and she has got a working motor. Well, in theory at least. Reality check. Lightning stones are way too unstable for this kind of work. Without a steady power source, the whole project is going on the shelf. Blaze starts messing with the magnet while Miria tells him to keep his hands off the merchandise. She figures the only thing it is good for right now is finding North. Since it is a brand new invention, she has no idea what else to do with it. Miria loses her mind when she realizes this world doesn't even have basic compasses yet. Blaze is just standing there shocked that a simple direction finder is such a big deal. Blaze thinks the concept is ridiculous, but the metal rod keeps proving him wrong by always pointing the same way. Miria explains that people usually rely on stars to navigate. This tool would be a game changer for anyone lost at sea or in a thick forest. Blaze recalls his orders to protect her intellectual property. He didn't expect a compass to be their second official project. Our boy suggests they lock things down with a patent. Miria just stares, probably not expecting to deal with legal paperwork today. Licensing fees mean steady money if the item gets commercialized. Miria wants to help the world but feels a little guilty since she didn't technically invent the concept herself. She eventually decides that making the world more convenient is a good enough reason to proceed. The logic is solid. They head to the research building where Barbara completely loses her mind over the application. She is crying happy tears because her department finally has a win to brag about. Barbara is really reaching her limit. She vents about how their department was treated like a joke before these results came in. Miria can only stand there and offer a polite apology for the sudden outburst. Everyone takes a second to admire the soap. Miria feels a bit bad that her first big report isn't a world-saving potion. Blaze is just in the back wondering why he is guarding a bar of soap and a compass. The logistics of a new business are never easy. Barbara worries that mass-producing soap would be impossible without an alchemist on every corner. Miria just smirks because she is 10 steps ahead of the game. The secret is in the paperwork. She designed the products to work with basic ingredients like seaweed so anyone can make them. This is the blueprint for mass production without the magic tax. Barbara is all in on the plan. She tells Miria to leave the boring business details to her and just keep being a genius. A solid handshake later and the contract is officially in motion. Time for a little break. With the licensing handled, Miria decides a shopping trip in the capital is the only way to celebrate. They step out into the busy streets to see what else they can find. A wild Ted appears in the middle of their shopping trip. He is apparently training a newcomer and offers to make some introductions. Miria is just surprised to see a familiar face in the crowd. Ted is genuinely stunned to see the two of them acting like old friends. Miria explains that this girl was actually a top candidate for her apprenticeship back in the day. She is happy to see her former student, but she is definitely confused. Miria asks the big question about why she suddenly gave up on being an apothecary. Alma drops the bombshell with a slightly awkward laugh. She got fired from her last gig and decided that blacksmithing was the next logical step. Hearing that we only live once hits Miria right in the feels. As someone on her third life, this level of youthful energy is almost blinding. Our MC is practically overwhelmed by the girl's pure spirit. Ted just has to keep it real and reminds her that she is technically the younger one in this conversation. Miria keeps up the praise for how much he has helped her out today. Ted tells her that flattery will not get her a raise, but the positive vibes are definitely there. Ted asks if they have a minute to spare before they head out. He reveals that her special request is finally finished, and the news catches everyone off guard. Blaze stands stunned as the raging sword finally sees the light of day. The blade practically glows in his hands while Alma looks on with pure wonder. Ted does not even try to hide his pride, admitting he has never forged a weapon at this level before. Our girl just sits back and smirks, enjoying the absolute chaos she started. She breaks down the specs, pointing out the 3 massive magic stones powering the blade. It is built for lightning strikes, high damage, and maximum durability. The raw power comes with a price, and Blaze is already feeling the massive weight of the weapon. Miria just tilts her head, acting like giving away a legendary blade is a casual everyday occurrence. She drops the bombshell with a smile, telling Blaze that the legendary sword is actually for him. Her logic is simple. Since she already bought it and it is too heavy for her, it is now his problem. Blaze tries to argue that he can handle his own business, but he has already lost the battle. Miria plays the ultimate trump card by saying returning it would be a hassle, leaving him with no choice but to accept. He finally admits defeat and mumbles a flustered apology for being in her debt. Ted just grabs his shoulder to brush it off, already shifting the focus to whatever comes next. Pure chaotic energy is radiating off Miria right now. Immediate destruction is the only thing on her mind as she demands a test run of the sword's cutting power. While the rest of the crew gets hyped, Blaze just stares at the blade like he is holding a ticking time bomb. On the outskirts of the royal capital, Alma's confused why they are standing so far back, but Miria tells her the show is about to start. Blaze grips the Regine sword, looking like he is about to defuse a bomb. Miria just shouts for him to go ahead and let it rip. One swing later and the landscape is absolutely cooked. Miria is hyped that the test worked, while Alma is terrified by the overkill and Lyle thinks it is every man's dream. Blaze is not celebrating. He screams that she is an idiot because that was not a sword swing, it was a hill deletion. He wonders who could even possibly use something this destructive. The vibe takes a hit when Miria suggests shelving the sword because it is way too dangerous. Blaze is sweating, realizing his new legendary weapon might just be a display piece. Depressed vibes only, Blaze slumps away in the background, looking completely heartbroken about his lost toy. Alma saves the day by suggesting they just do not turn on the magic stones. Blaze is back in the game instantly, looking like the happiest knight alive. Miria reaches out like she is about to perform a magic trick. She asks Blaze for his cloak, while he looks like he wants to pretend they are total strangers. Miria shows off her quick work after turning the cloak into a portable magic bag. Alma's losing it over the casual power flex, while Blaze realizes he just got a major gear upgrade. Alma watches with a bit of regret, wishing she could pull off crazy alchemist moves like that. Miria notices the heavy mood and starts plotting a way to cheer her up. Our girl drops the ultimate peace offering and invites Alma over for a dessert date. The mention of sweets instantly snaps the blacksmith apprentice out of her funk. Alma tries to be a model employee and stay focused on her training. Her boss Ted steps in though, reminding her that even the hardest workers need to touch grass occasionally. Miria is absolutely stunned to hear that Alma has been skipping her rest days. The poor girl looks caught in 4K as she tries to hide her exhaustion. Ted officially gives her the green light to take the weekend off. He claims it is just professional networking, but the sparkle in Alma's eyes says she is only here for the snacks. Ted admits he has no idea what an apothecary is supposed to be after seeing Miria in action. Between the legendary blades and the instant magic bags, she is basically operating on a different level. He notes that since she was an apprentice candidate, she must have some alchemy experience. Ted mentions that having someone who can craft magic tools would be a massive help for the shop. Alma tells him to just look at her getting fired as all the proof he needs. The blacksmith immediately regrets bringing it up and starts apologizing for making things awkward. She confesses that she was never actually good at brewing potions. It turns out she also failed to qualify as Miria's formal apprentice back in the day. Some official told her that without talent she had no place in the field. Alma realized that simply being able to manipulate ley lines was not going to be enough to survive. Ted respects her for pivoting and deciding to put in the work as a blacksmith instead. Miria listens in, finally getting the full story behind her former student's struggle. The master blacksmith tells her she has serious guts for not giving up. He claims he values heart over talent and promises to train her into the most promising rookie the forge has ever seen. Miria is absolutely losing it over how good the food is. The girl is in tears as she experiences her first 5-star meal in this world. Klaus just stands there looking humble while he takes in the praise. The dessert spread is looking top tier with chiffon cakes and lemon tarts on deck. Alma's shook by how fast the cooking game is evolving lately. Miria stays humble though, claiming she could never have pulled this off solo. It turns out our MC has been busy revolutionizing the kitchen with modern recipes and appliances. Klaus is hype about the new gear and the high-quality sugar she brought along. He is ready to go all out if it means more fire dishes. Maria explains that the secret to the sugar is actually a specific type of tuber discovered by the Marquis family. Alma's completely caught off guard to find out her snack comes from a potato. Noble resources really do hit different. Looking at the sheer mountain of tubers in storage has Alma sweating. Miria mentions they use alchemy for extraction and might need to recruit Lyle for the heavy lifting. The apprentice is left wondering if there is any way to get through that pile without magic. Alma's feeling a bit left out and wishes she could handle the alchemy side of things. Miria explains that while handmade sugar works, the refined stuff is essential for top-quality sweets. Doing it the old-fashioned way is basically a one-way ticket to burnout. Miria is tempted to ask for help but remembers she told Alma to take a proper break. She decides to keep the work talk to a minimum while they finish their snacks. For now, the only thing on the menu is relaxation. Alma is ready to throw down and help with the work, but Miria hits her with the hand of rejection. She insists her apprentice stays in vacation mode and focuses on enjoying those cookies. Our girl is hit with a major case of imposter syndrome, claiming she has zero talent for alchemy. Miria is genuinely confused since the girl can already handle ley lines like a pro. The self-doubt is hitting hard as Alma admits she could never even brew a mid-level potion. She feels like just having the basics isn't enough to make it as a real disciple. Miria whips out a whole diagram to show that sugar extraction is basically alchemy on easy mode. While potions require 5 different perfect steps, sugar is just one simple vibe that is hard to mess up. It turns out modern alchemists are just struggling because the ancient archives didn't leave any notes. Miria offers to fill in the blanks, and Alma is suddenly all in on the lesson. They get straight to work, but the first attempt is a total disaster. Without the archive to guide her, Alma has to rely on pure intuition, which currently just produces smoke and regret. After a few hours of pure grind, they finally see a tiny speck of success on a fingertip. Alma is absolutely losing it over the progress as the duo celebrates their first win. The reality of her first success is finally hitting. One sample might be a bit burnt, but she actually managed to pull it off. Miria watches her closely as the weight of the moment sinks in. Alma tries to keep the mood light, reminding her master that they both have a long way to go. She is keeping things casual for now. The talent is undeniable, but she is not ready to embrace it just yet. Back at the forge, Alma walks in like nothing happened. She hands over a bag of souvenirs to keep the conversation light. Sweets from the master are the perfect way to blend in. She is ready to drop the major flex about her alchemy win, but the guy is zeroed in on the snacks. He is already planning to take them home to his family. Her big reveal gets completely ignored for a basket of cookies. Talk about a total derailment. Alma quickly pivots to hyping up the rare sugar to cover the awkward silence. She makes a fast exit before she says too much. Alone in her room, the truth is impossible to ignore. A tiny spark of mana dances on her fingertips as she tries to process everything. The realization is hitting like a truck. The internal conflict is starting to get real. She tells herself she has to stay focused on being a blacksmith, but the alchemy bug has already bitten her. Our girl is officially torn between two worlds. Alma is caught in her feelings, remembering how Ted hyped her up as his star rookie. She decides to keep her alchemy secret and just focus on being the best blacksmith she can be tomorrow. Back at the forge, Ted is rocking a dark bruise on his forehead. Miria is immediately concerned, wondering what kind of workplace hazard could have caused that. It turns out the cookies Miria gifted were so good they turned Ted's family into wild beasts. The man didn't even get a single bite before his wife and daughter cleaned the plate. Miria is just happy her snacks were a hit, even if Blaze thinks she owes the man an apology. Ted changes the subject, asking if he can borrow Alma to help him brew up some sugar with alchemy. Ted is still convinced Alma's a failure at magic and tells Miria to just leave her alone. Miria is left stunned, wondering why the boss has zero faith in his own apprentice. Miria reveals she actually taught the girl the other day and thought she would have shared the news. Ted realizes Alma was just being considerate and kept quiet to protect his ego. While Alma keeps her head down and sweeps in the background, Ted leans in with a favor. The master blacksmith is ready to ask for something big. Ted drops the absolute bombshell that he knows about her secret alchemy skills. Alma is caught in 4K and starts bugging out, trying to claim she is just a simple blacksmith while her master reveals he already got the tea from Miria. Ted is not buying the act for a second and just watches her struggle to keep the lie alive. Our girl is left short-circuiting as her double life officially goes up in smoke. Keeping secrets was a total fail, and she finally realizes there is no point in hiding the truth anymore. Ted puts her on the spot, demanding to know what she actually wants to do with her life. She tries to drop a formal apology for the magic reveal, but Ted is already 3 steps ahead. He is not looking for an apology, he is looking for a straight answer about her future. The boss keeps it real and asks the ultimate question. It is the moment of truth where she has to choose between the forge and the cauldron. Ted proves he is a total legend by promising to respect whatever choice she makes. He tells her not to feel guilty about leaving because her happiness is more important than her debt to the shop. Remembering how he took her in, when she had nothing but motivation hits her right in the feels. But the boss is already 10 steps ahead and reveals he has already given Miria the green light. Ted lets out a booming laugh, joking that her working out in the world might actually be his shop's best advertisement. Miria flashes a bright smile and a thumbs up, revealing she already secured the new position for her. Pointing toward the exit, the boss lets her know that Miria is already waiting outside. Alma looks at him with a mix of shock and gratitude as the reality of her new path finally sinks in. After a final bow of respect, she turns and walks out of the forge for the last time. Ted watches her go with a smirk, reflecting on what a handful she was during her time as his rookie. Sprinting into the sunlight, our girl heads toward the new team waiting for her in the street. This is the official first step toward her brand new future as an alchemist. Jump forward a few days since Alma officially swapped the blacksmith forge for the cauldron. Miria gathers the team together to set the ground rules for their newest member. Our girl is officially on the payroll as the newest assistant. She is beyond hyped to start this new chapter and is already looking for any way to prove her worth. No rushing into the high-tier stuff yet, because the boss wants her starting with the basics. They are going to build her skills from the ground up until she is a certified pro. Miria puts Lyle in charge of the training as the official senior mentor. Alma is totally down for the help, but the poor guy is short-circuiting because he is actually younger than his new student. Potions are currently off the table as Miria lays out a curriculum focused on herb gathering and self-defense. Survival comes first before they even think about touching a brewing stand. It is a marathon, not a sprint, since they are basically catching up on 1,000 years of lost history. Miria makes it clear that slow and steady is the only way to master the archives. Alma's ready to grind, even if her only current skill is turning plants into sugar. Lyle is a bit confused by the weird flex, but Miria confirms that this girl is a legitimate specialist. Pointing out the new girl's insane talent, Miria reveals they processed a whole stash of sweet potatoes into sugar overnight. Lyle is definitely feeling the heat now that his junior is this cracked. Loot drop incoming. Miria brings out a spread of high-tier cakes as a reward, and the squad is ready to risk it all for a bite. Staring at the masterpiece, Lyle wonders if Miria is also a master chef on the side. It turns out she just sent the sugar to Klaus back at the domain to do the heavy lifting. Once he got his hands on that pure sugar, the chef went into a frenzy. He was whipping up cream and crying tears of joy at the same time. Klaus didn't just follow the instructions, he actually leveled up the recipes with his own twists. Barbara slips into the room with some tea to help everyone wash down the sugar rush. Seeing the spread, even the noble staff is completely floored by the quality. Miria offers up a slice, but Barbara is fighting for her life trying to stay professional. While everyone is eating, Blaze is the only one noticing the red flag. If even a noble is this impressed, this sugar is going to attract a lot of unwanted attention. Blaze decides that keeping the secret among themselves is the only way to stay safe. As long as the news does not leak, they should be fine. Scene jump to the royal capital. A carriage pulls up to the Marquisate residence late at night, and Klaus is already at the door to welcome the lady of the house home. Meet Margaret, the lady of the Marquisate domain. After such a long journey, she admits the only thing she looks forward to is some good cooking. High society stress is already setting in. Margaret knows the local noble ladies are just waiting to flex their fancy dresses and paintings on her. Klaus presents a masterpiece of a dessert to help her relax. This new treat looks way too cute and lovely to resist. She takes a bite and finds that it tastes delicious. Margaret is floored and admits even the royal banquet's desserts pale in comparison. Klaus just smiles and reveals the secret was a collab with Miria. Margaret is lost in the sauce, giggling to herself while Klaus tries to bring her back to reality. He eventually asks if she is even listening. Elsewhere, she is already plotting her world domination through dessert for the next tea party. Seeing her get this hyped over some sugar has Klaus questioning his life choices. Next morning, and Miria is looking like she pulled an all-nighter. She admits she could not sleep after hearing some creepy laughter echoing through the halls. Sleep is not an option when there are blueprints to finish and blacksmiths to visit. Lyle spots what she is working on and immediately dives into the library archives to help. Miria realizes that as the source of all future knowledge, she can leak some tech from her past lives. Lyle finds a certain page and can hardly believe his eyes when he sees a steam engine. Our girl is basically the gatekeeper of progress, unless someone else manages to outsmart her. Blaze is already getting suspicious of the chaotic energy radiating from those notes. She recalls the time she dropped the idea of a horseless carriage on the blacksmith. Now she is ready to go full industrial revolution by powering them with magic stones. Lyle and Alma are already hyped for the new library records, but Blaze senses that things are about to get chaotic. Miria considers if a steam engine is a bit too much for this world right now. She concludes that someone with scientific knowledge would have figured it out eventually anyway. Zero restraint today. Miria drops the blueprints and explains her rotational motion engine while Ted looks like his brain just short-circuited. The setup uses a fire stone to evaporate water and an ice stone for condensation. This constant cycle drives a piston to create mechanical energy. Current plans are focused strictly on building the core engine. Moving away from horsepower is the next major goal. Beyond travel, this machine can pump well water and replace old-school water wheels. It is basically the ultimate tool for a productive lifestyle. Blaze is wondering when she abandoned her medical career path. Miria just wants to avoid working herself to death and reminds him that her crafting credentials are already legendary. Miria explains that her grind now is for a lazy future, but Blaze is not buying it. This dude points out that she keeps making things that are definitely not helping her relax. Ted is hyped about the blueprints while Miria privately reminds herself that she has already died twice from overwork. Using magic stones seems like the best way to make up for structural weaknesses in the design. While looking for molds, the group discusses the precision needed for the motor parts. Friction and airtightness are big concerns, but our girl already has a solution cooked up. Shocking everyone, Miria uses alchemy to extract and homogenize iron in midair. Molten metal flows perfectly into a small cube mold as the blacksmith watches. Cracking open the mold reveals a perfectly formed part. The quality is so high that it needs an immediate inspection by the master craftsman. Processing materials at room temperature is a total game changer for manufacturing. High-quality precision with zero impurities is basically the ultimate alchemy flex. Large components are still out of her reach, so the heavy lifting goes to the professional. Ted is relieved to finally have a role in the project and flexes his muscles for the job. Blaze is getting major flashbacks to the last time she handed him something. He is really hoping this project does not end in another scorched wasteland disaster. Miria just gives a nervous as the tension starts to rise. The awkward moment is cut short when Ted taps her on the shoulder. Ted gives a big thumbs up while asking about their safety plans. Blaze watches from the sidelines with pure suspicion. He is already bracing himself for the disaster he knows is coming. Blaze is hunkered down behind a massive shield in the middle of nowhere, already sensing a familiar pattern. He was told this was a steam engine test, but he is starting to suspect he is just the designated crash test dummy. Ted casually drops the news that while he took precautions, this thing could still technically explode. Miria just grins and asks Blaze to be the starter, hand-delivering him a magic shield just in case he needs to survive a blast. From a very safe distance, the team shouts that he is hitting the nightly jackpot with such high-tier gear. Blaze can only sweat while noticing they are cheering from a whole different zip code. He puts his back into it and gives the engine a heavy crank. The machine groans and suddenly kicks into gear, sending the massive wheel into a high-speed spin. Total success. Miria and Ted are hyped as they watch the massive wheel turn, realizing their industrial revolution is officially a go. Blaze is still screaming behind the shield because of the terrifying mechanical roar. Ted just waves him off, yelling that the noise is totally stable, and it is safe to come back now. A very rattled Blaze hands over the gear, complaining that the heat and sound nearly took him out. Miria and Ted are just relieved the whole thing stayed in one piece, even if they know this tech is a total magnet for trouble. Miria decides to take a breather while the engine goes through its paces. A voice calls out from the grass, recognizing her immediately. Alma and Lyle appear, looking totally drained from their long-distance dash. Lyle is gasping for air while Alma is just happy to have found them. Lyle collapses into a pile of exhaustion on the grass. They explain that the engine was so loud they heard it clear across the city, much to the Knight's annoyance. The team compares their clean engine to the old records of smoke-belching machines. Miria points out that using magic stones keeps the air clear, which is a major upgrade over ancient tech. Thinking back to her previous lives, Miria realizes just how much her old world struggled with industrial waste. Her new magic tech is so clean it almost feels like cheating. Blaze isn't nearly as relaxed, reminding everyone that a noise that loud definitely reached city ears. The peaceful test run is starting to feel a lot more public. Ted starts picking apart the machine's impractical size and total lack of comfort. Instead of getting discouraged, Miria immediately asks him to engineer a more compact version. Miria drops a knowledge bomb, explaining that while a carriage crawls at 6 kilometers per hour, her new engine is 10 times faster. Alma can only shout in shock at the insane speed boost. Blaze isn't celebrating the breakthrough, instead staring off with a look of pure dread because this invention is too good. Ted notices the knight's growing anxiety and asks if they have yet another problem on their hands. The military implications are starting to weigh heavy on Blaze, who realizes that horseless transport would turn their entire tactical doctrine upside down. He is practically vibrating with stress while the others just watch. Ted tries to play the voice of reason, listing off all the ways they have already broken reality with magic bags and legendary swords. He reminds Miria that being an adult usually means trying to fly under the radar. Miria doesn't see what the big deal is, casually stating that there is no problem at all. Blaze and Ted just stare at her, completely floored by her lack of concern. She hits them with the ultimate loophole, flashing a peace sign and reminding everyone she is only 12 years old. Ted laughs it off, telling her she has a few more years of freedom before she actually has to act like a responsible adult. A very done Blaze can only massage his temples while the rest of the group celebrates in the background. He mutters to himself, wishing they would at least try to keep up with their actual responsibilities. Miria is straight up multitasking inside the research building. She is juggling temperature control, magic water generation, and medicinal extraction all at once. The results are elite. She just whipped up cure potions that can detoxify the body and heal severe diseases like it is nothing. Barbara is losing it over the double synthesis technique. Miria just brushes it off, saying that making two things at the same time is just a better way to save time. For Miria, the faster she works, the more time she has to slack off later. Barbara tries to wrap her head around it, but to her, it feels like trying to multitask at a level that should be impossible. A pile of top-tier potions is stacked up and ready to go. That wraps it up for now. The complexity of these potions goes way beyond the standard ranks. Miria mentions she could do even more if the lab actually had better materials. She realizes that holy water does not require materials, meaning she can just manifest it. It is perfect for handling zombies and curses, though even she finds it a bit of a grind to pull off. Miria starts fishing for info on zombies, leaving Blaze completely lost. She's basically justifying her upcoming hobby time by claiming she's already done her quota of real alchemist work. It is officially time for her to stop working and start messing around with her own projects. While the apprentices are hyped, Blaze is starting to realize that her idea of a slow life is basically a full-time job. Alma is ready for the next big reveal, so Miria casually announces they're building a horseless carriage. It's a complete shift in direction that leaves her apprentice looking totally confused. Slapping a powerful engine onto a regular cart would basically create a high-speed coffin. Miria knows that without a way to turn or stop, they'd just be launching themselves into a disaster. The mental blueprint she's cooked up is way beyond anything this world has seen, from steering wheels to full suspension. Building something that goes 10 times faster than a horse is going to require a lot of brand new tech. The real grind starts now as she sketches out the complex gear systems. She's planning to use alchemy to create small working miniatures to test the mechanics before committing to the full-scale build. This project is definitely going to be a major time sink, but she's already looking toward the finish line. For our MC, the faster she gets this done, the sooner she can get back to actual slacking. Miria is already planning to use her steam engine to generate electricity and finally build that electric mixer she has been dreaming of. Her chibi brain is working overtime on how to make batteries with alchemy. Back with the crew, Lyle is amazed at how much her hobbies are changing the world. Even buying soap at the market is a reality now, though Miria seems more focused on her cow projects. She tells her students to dive into their own interests, calling it the new way of their group. Alma is all in, giving her a serious yes ma'am. Deciding it is time for a break, Miria heads out for a run. The apprentices are not about to be left behind and scramble to keep up. Lyle is basically a puddle on the ground after their cardio session. He is panicking because his stamina is somehow worse than Alma. He explains that he needs to get stronger for his graduation exam. To pass, he has to fetch spirit grass from an actual dragon nest. Blaze is watching from the sidelines, wondering how many clones he would need just to keep track of these kids. Miria is not making it easier, insisting that nobody graduates without learning self-defense. Alma spills the beans on Lyle's secret training, sending him into a total blushing panic as they head out. Miria just laughs it off and agrees they should get moving. Lyle is still reeling from being exposed, asking if his training was supposed to be hush-hush. Alma tries to play it cool while they walk. Our boy just wanted to have some actual results before flexing his progress. He looks a little down that the surprise was ruined. Miria teases him about wanting to look cool for the big reveal, making him flustered again. Alma watches them and starts feeling like she needs to step up her own game. A squad of heavily armed guards marches past the group, instantly killing the vibe. Lyle wonders what is going down while Alma is just distracted by their gear. Back at the workshop, Barbara peeks through the door with a worried look. Miria is just chilling at her desk and asks what is wrong. The door gets kicked in by a squad of guards announcing that Miria is under arrest. Our girl is completely blindsided while Blaze and Barbara watch in shock. Blaze is losing his mind, shouting that he thought they were finally done with this kind of legal drama. He demands to know by whose authority they are barging into a royal research building, but the lead guard doesn't even flinch. Presenting a formal document, he coldly states that they have full permission to be there. The guard drops a massive bombshell, announcing that the church has officially decided to put Miria on trial for heresy. Looking up at the towering spires of the cathedral, our girl is left completely stunned as the situation escalates into a religious nightmare. Miria gets marched into the royal capital Grand Cathedral looking like a total criminal. She is trying to process why she is even here, wondering what kind of mess a heresy trial actually is. Our girl is no stranger to legal drama after being dragged around for tax evasion before, but this feels different. She has no idea what they are even pinning on her this time, and can't help but look over her shoulder. Looking around, she notices how much the church has upgraded over the last 1,000 years. Back in her day, these places were just tiny chapels where you went to pick up some holy water. The massive doors groan open as she realizes that without her alchemy, curing basic injuries is probably a nightmare for regular people. In a world with primitive medicine, praying to the gods is basically the only healthcare plan available. The atmosphere gets heavy as the lead official formally announces the start of the heresy trial. He warns everyone in the room that they are standing in the direct presence of God. Miria looks up at the balcony, expecting nothing but a bunch of curious bystanders. She lets out a breath of relief after spotting a familiar face in the crowd. The Inquisitor demands she confirm her name and she gives a quick answer from the stand. Up in the stands, Blaze notices a suspicious amount of high-ranking nobles gathered for what should be a simple trial. The court officials call for order as the trial enters the next phase. Miria watches from her seat, instantly realizing that glowing sphere is a magical lie detector. Leaning in close, the Inquisitor prepares to drop the first charge. The Inquisitor starts listing off her alleged crimes, starting with forging demon swords that level hills. He even claims she is using her sweets to corrupt the nobility and building mechanical beasts. Audacity alone isn't enough to describe the situation. Miria can't believe they are twisting her simple survival gear into a dark conspiracy. Trying to defend her work gets her nowhere. The official demands a simple yes or no answer for the entire group of accusations at once. Cornered by the binary choice, she takes a stand and delivers a firm no. The crystal flashes a red cross as the Inquisitor declares her an undeniable heretic. Miria is fuming at the rigged trial, shouting that he should have at least asked the questions one by one. The Inquisitor shuts down any chance of a self-defense, declaring that the verdict is already decided. Miria desperately scans the room, wondering where the heck Blaze is when she actually needs him. The balcony is full of high-ranking spectators, but her knight in shining armor is nowhere to be found. She is actually losing it, realizing that the one guy who follows her everywhere decided to take a coffee break during her trial. It is the ultimate betrayal. He is usually glued to her side, but he vanished right when things got life or death. Just as hope starts to fade, Barbara stands up and shouts an objection to the entire court. She is not letting this slide, testifying that she has been monitoring every single move our girl made at the research wing. The Inquisitor is not impressed and hits her with a reality check, asking if she followed Miria into the bathroom or something. Barbara freezes up as he points out she cannot possibly account for every single second of the girl's life. Suddenly, Barbara has a massive brain blast. She remembers reading that ancient alchemists could produce holy water and asks Miria if she can pull off the same trick. If she can make holy water, it would prove once and for all that she has not turned her back on the gods. Miria is a bit confused by the sudden request but admits that it is actually not that hard for her. Miria finally catches on to Barbara's big brain move. Manifesting holy water is the perfect way to prove her faith is legit and shut these guys up. The Inquisitor is laughing in her face, mocking her for claiming she can pull off a miracle that has been lost for centuries. He is convinced she just dug her own grave by lying. She doesn't even blink, calling out these high and mighty officials for being unable to do their own jobs. Miria hits them with a reality check, asking what the point of the church even is if they cannot handle the basics. The lead official is losing his mind, shouting that they have the exclusive rights to handle divine merchandise. The church's failure is actually a huge win for her. She grabs the chalice, ready to show the court what a real miracle looks like. After a quick deep breath, she drops to the floor and starts her prayer. She formally announces her devotion to the Creator God while the entire room goes dead silent. She locks in and begs for a single drop of divine power. Right on cue, a massive magic circle starts glowing under her, turning the courtroom into a light show. The chalice fills up with a single drop, and a system screen confirms it is a special-grade holy water capable of wiping out curses. Miria collapses in exhaustion, muttering that summoning this was more of a faith test than a skill one, especially since she has actually seen the guy. She gets back on her feet and calls out the officials for their own lack of power, asking if they still have the guts to label her a heretic. The crowd is losing it, whispering about how they thought these things only existed in fairy tales about the Holy Maiden. One official is sweating buckets after hearing her use a secret divine name that only the highest church leaders are supposed to know. The head inquisitor panics and demands an immediate appraisal to see if she is hiding anything else. He is in total denial, accusing her of pulling a bait and switch while his colleagues stare at the results in shock. The head inquisitor hits his limit and decides to handle the appraisal himself. Miria just crosses her arms with a smirk, asking why he is so desperate to prove she is a heretic. He stares at the crystal ball in pure shock. This guy is losing his mind because what he is seeing has zero precedent in church history. Even after seeing the results, he tries to pivot and double down on her being a criminal. Miria is not letting him slide and lunges forward to see the text for herself. The orb displays a direct message from the creator god Philiastin. It turns out she has a divine blessing that specifically forbids her from being worked to death. Miria is actually offended by her own miracle. She screams at the sky, asking the god why she got a labor law disclaimer instead of a cool cheat ability. The other officials realize they were almost smited and quickly declare her blessed to save their own skins. Our girl is still in the back throwing a fit because her blessing is basically just a health and safety manual. With the divine truth out, the other church leaders turn on the head inquisitor. They loom over him, reminding the old man that this entire mess was his fault. The church officials realize they grilled the wrong person, while the old inquisitor just sulks in the background. Someone lets out a frustrated sigh as the sun sets over the city. Walking through the streets, our girl is still fuming about the circus she just survived. Barbara is just relieved that the whole innocence thing is finally settled. Miria tries to process how her inventions got rebranded into legends, but one question still bugs her. Barbara explains that the Marquis's wife used those sweets to flex on everyone at a capital T party. Out of nowhere, Blaze finally shows his face, and our MC is not happy. He casually admits he was off doing some detective work while she was fighting for her life. It turns out Margaret was tired of being the social underdog and used the sweets to flip the script. Barbara notes that anyone who tasted that sugar was bound to lose their minds. The real story is even messier, involving nobles who bribed a cardinal just to stage a fake trial. They wanted to isolate the Marquis's house and snatch Miria and her recipes for themselves. Blaze finishes his report, leaving Miria mad about the corruption. She screams about how unfair the whole system is while he just watches her tiny tantrum. Miria is legit fuming as she marches through the streets. She vents about the church corruption, noting they care more about fancy buildings than actual holy work. Barbara points out that our girl is salty because Blaze ditched her in the middle of the trial. He seems genuinely confused as they watch her stomp away. Blaze tries to justify his exit by saying he went to investigate the suspicious nobles. He felt that staying in the room as a non-noble was basically pointless. Barbara isn't having it and says he should have stayed to understand the full gravity of the situation. Miria basically had to pull a miracle out of her pocket to survive while he was playing detective. Barbara finally loses her cool and demands that he just apologize already. Blaze realizes his mistake and admits that abandoning his post as a guard was a major error. He calls out to her and tries to explain his reasoning one more time. He felt that as a knight he would have been useless in a courtroom where the high-ranking nobles make all the calls. He admits he might have been overconfident in her ability to protect herself. Now he is just struggling to find the right words to finish his apology. Blaze hangs his head and drops a formal apology for being a mid-bodyguard. Miria gives him the silent treatment and just keeps walking. She stops and tells him that if he is actually sorry, he better not complain about whatever crazy thing she cooks up next. Blaze just looks tired and tells her to take it easy. Finally feeling free, Miria pumps a fist and vows to go all out with her inventions. Blaze points out that she never really held back in the first place. Miria can't even enjoy a meal without being swarmed by her local fan club. These people are treating her like a literal goddess, praying for blessings while she is just trying to exist in peace. It has been 2 months since that insane heresy trial, and the hype around her hasn't faded at all. Our girl gives a tired wave to the crowd, clearly over the whole saintess lifestyle already. Blaze points out that having a divine blessing basically labels her a saintess to the public, official recognition or not. Miria facepalms and groans, complaining that these wild rumors are making her daily life a total nightmare. Back then, she was hit with a house arrest order from the chancellor himself. She wasn't even allowed to leave her own front door without permission, which felt more like a cage than protection. During that time, being trapped inside meant she had nothing but time to grind her alchemy skills. She made scary progress on her work and hobbies, pumping out top-tier potions while her apprentices looked on in shock. Back in the present, now that she is finally allowed to wander the streets again, the pent-up frustration is showing. Blaze tells her to stop being ridiculous, but a light bulb suddenly goes off in her head. She leans in with an excited look and suggests they just bail and go on a road trip. Her plan is to find some quiet spot in the countryside where the annoying rumors of her being a saintess haven't reached yet. Blaze drops some heavy news explaining that our girl is now considered a vital national defense asset, so a road trip is basically off the table. Miria is not having it and demands to know why she is stuck in the city. It turns out having a divine blessing is the ultimate deterrent. No country is brave enough to invade a place where the creator god might smite them off the map for overworking their star alchemist. The kingdom has been using Miria as a human shield to force a ceasefire with the Britannia Empire. Things are so peaceful now that the royal army is actually pulling back from the borders. Miria just laughs it off and takes a big drink, figuring that peace is always a win. Blaze stays silent and keeps drinking, looking way more stressed about the politics of it all. Blaze finally caves and agrees to check with his bosses about the trip, though he warns her not to get too excited. Our MC is stunned she actually got a yes and immediately starts plotting how to push her luck even further. She starts rambling about finding a cool mountain getaway or even a dragon nest for her apprentice's graduation exam. She excitedly asks if they can at least do a day trip to the Marquis territory. Blaze calls her out for being delusional, reminding her that it took 2 full days just to travel to the capital. Miria just looks back with a smug expression and asks if he is forgetting something important. Miria is feeling herself, bragging about how much work she put into her side projects during the lockdown. Blaze just watches from the background, looking like he is already tired of her energy. They drop by the forge where Ted greets her with her new holy title, making our girl immediately regret her life choices. He has already finished the miniaturized steam engine, and the precision of his work is honestly on another level. Not one to be outdone, Miria reveals that she has been cooking up something special too. Ted leans in with a mix of curiosity and dread, wondering what kind of crazy invention she has brought him this time. She unveils the prototype for a miniature horseless carriage, and it is a total flex. She is already planning day trips to the countryside, but Ted looks like he is about to have a midlife crisis just looking at it. Even for a miniature, this thing is surprisingly big. Blaze takes a closer look while Ted tries to process the sheer scale of what they just built. Miria admits she originally wanted it to be the size of a toy car, but the internals were just too complex. The boys are completely lost when she starts dropping terms like RC car, having no context for her past life hobbies. Ted scans the blueprints and admits the mechanisms are way beyond anything he has ever seen. Since this thing is built for speed, Miria explains she had to invent a whole new set of safety features just to keep them on the road. Blaze looks like he is reconsidering his entire career choice, while the squad treats him like a crash test dummy. They casually mention his body has limits like he is just another expendable machine part. Ted is geeking out over how perfectly the engine fits in the frame. Our MC just shrugs it off, noting that a rideable carriage obviously needs a decent-sized engine. It is go time. Ted gives the back one last look and confirms the machine is ready to roll. Miria reminds her pilot of the controls before calling for the final assembly. With a heavy sigh, Blaze accepts his fate as the only one brave enough to drive this thing. He grips the handles and prays the whole setup does not explode as the engine starts to rumble. Miria warns him to keep the speed down just in case. The machine takes off like a rocket and Blaze is suddenly flying across the terrain. Miria cheers him on from the sidelines while Ted is stunned by the raw speed they managed to achieve. Speeding along the road, Blaze feels the wind hit his face. Miria yells for him to just do one quick lap and stop, but the night seems to be getting into the rhythm. Panic starts to set in when the carriage keeps picking up more and more speed. Ted and Miria watch in horror, wondering if their bodyguard was secretly a speed demon this entire time. Blaze manages to return in one piece after a high-speed test run. Ted is just glad the whole thing did not go up in smoke right in front of them. Miria is relieved the machine survived, but the mood shifts fast. Blaze is so sold on the new ride that he asks to keep it, catching her completely off guard. Ted is happy with the performance, but the realization finally hits Blaze. He is absolutely losing his mind because he just realized he was risking his life on an untested prototype. Miria tries to keep things professional by insisting on a final inspection first. Ted is already thinking ahead, planning to reverse engineer the internals and start making copies. Our boy Blaze gets way too serious while wishing he could show off the new tech to the apprentices. Miria can only watch in silence, realizing her bodyguard is fully obsessed with his new toy. Back with the squad, Blaze gives a glowing review of the carriage to Lyle and Alma. The kids are totally sold on the hype, even while they are stuck in the middle of their workout. Alma is ready to ditch her training for a joyride the second she hears about it. She gets a little too carried away with her sword practice while apologizing for almost swinging into someone. Miria notices Lyle is still struggling to pick a combat style while everyone else is already leveling up. Our boy looks a bit lost as she points out that even Alma has been grinding sword skills with Blaze lately. Picking a martial art is basically like choosing a main in a game with too many options. Miria offers to help him decide, but Lyle decides it is finally time to reveal what he has been cooking in private. He steps up to a tree and takes a deep breath to center himself. With a sudden burst of energy, he lunges forward to deliver a high-power palm strike. The impact shatters the wood as he channels chi directly from the Lee lines to rupture the trunk. Blaze and the girls are caught off guard because they definitely did not expect him to be a secret Kempo master. Miria admits the path of the unarmed fighter is rough since you cannot rely on weapons for reach or defense. Lyle takes the advice to heart and gives a respectful bow, feeling validated that his training is finally paying off. Alma watches the exchange and realizes just how hard fighting without a weapon actually is. She notes that even Miria carries a spear to make up for her smaller stature and lack of reach. It turns out Miria is more than just a spear user, casually dropping the fact that she learned Kempo back in the day to pass her own exams. Alma immediately loses her mind and begs for a live demonstration of her master hidden hands. Miria channels her power to demonstrate the true strength of her martial arts. She strikes a pose with a casual himf as the energy builds around her. A single palm strike blasts a massive hole through the center of a giant tree. She admits that holding back is hard since she usually only uses this level of power for hunting dragons. Blaze questions the logic of holding back against a dragon in the first place. Miria explains that her priority is protecting the loot, specifically preventing the dragon heart stake from getting crushed. The thought of ruined stake is a tragedy she refuses to accept. She watches Lyle train and realizes his graduation is going to take a long time without extra help. She warns Lyle that overworking will just turn him into a total workout maniac. Her solution is to assign him a professional knight as a personal bodyguard. Blaze looks skeptical while pointing out that dragon tier warriors do not just grow on trees. Miria stands surrounded by sparkles while arguing that he needs a partner to keep things youthful. Miria gestures toward Blaze and suggests he find someone as strong as himself. He looks away with a stressed expression as he considers the difficulty of the request. Blaze realizes our boy is actually serious about this graduation test, so he decides to put in the formal request himself. He has plenty of thoughts on the matter, but for now, he is sticking to the plan. 3 days pass in the blink of an eye as a fancy carriage rolls through the main gates. It seems the response to the request came way faster than anyone expected. Miria casually mentions that the bodyguard is already on their way, catching Blaze completely off guard. He can barely believe the Marquisate actually processed the paperwork this fast. Blaze starts stressing over the potential drama of sending a high-level guard to a mere apprentice. Miria just laughs it off and tells him he has finally matured enough to see the Hedekis coming. They find a maid waiting for them with an official update from the Marquisate. The message is as vague as it gets, simply stating that the selection was immediate and undisputed. Blaze acknowledges that the guests have finally arrived, but Miria is more worried about the maid's terrified expression. She asks why the poor girl sounds like she is delivering a death sentence. Shaking with nerves, the maid points them toward the courtyard. She begs them to be on their best behavior as if their lives depend on it. Blaze and Miria head toward the courtyard to meet the new recruit who supposedly has a reputation beyond any criticism. Miria is already racking her brain, trying to guess what kind of monster they've actually hired. She starts picturing a brainless berserker who only knows how to solve problems with an axe. However, the composed figure currently meeting with Lyle in the courtyard is a far cry from her wild imagination. As they get closer, a crushing aura of pure authority slams into Miria, making her gasp as if she's been hit by a physical weight. She breaks into a cold sweat while asking Blaze if this legendary person is seriously the one joining their team. The mysterious guard finally reveals herself as a legendary sword saint, radiating a level of power that leaves everyone in the vicinity speechless. With a single glance, she proves why no one in the Marquisate would ever dare to question her selection. Facing the legendary sword saint in the flesh, Miria feels the crushing weight of her presence. Her survival instincts are screaming warnings that this lady is in a league of her own. Lyle stammers through a quick introduction to break the awkward silence between them. The knight remains perfectly professional as she prepares to formally greet the tiny alchemist. Introducing herself as Elizabeth, the legendary warrior confirms her new role as the official bodyguard for Lyle. She asks for forgiveness for her earlier coldness, claiming it was just standard procedure for a first encounter. Flipping the switch, Miria puts on her best innocent child act to mask the absolute fear she is feeling. She plays it cool, praising the knight for being such a reliable and intense protector. Elizabeth wraps things up with a polite thank you and tells Lyle it is time to move. Our boy is totally rattled by her presence, barely managing a stuttered wee yes as they prepare to leave. They start making their way down the corridor as the meeting finally ends. Elizabeth stays silent while Miria sends them off with a super energetic wave goodbye. Elizabeth reflects on the rumors she heard about the girl as they head to the next destination. Lyle just stays quiet, watching the knight while she is lost in thought. The Sword Saint admits she expected a wild child but was actually impressed by her maturity. Lyle can only laugh and agree, knowing his master is basically built different. Walking with her new charge, Elizabeth reflects on her initial plan. She was fully prepared to humble the tiny alchemist if the rumors about her being reckless turned out to be true. But seeing Miria's bright smile changes everything. Our MC didn't just survive the heavy killing intent, she actually stayed composed enough to be polite and considerate. Elizabeth's respect for the girl is growing by the second. She finally understands why her father is so invested in this tiny powerhouse. The group heads back to work as the meeting finally wraps up. Miria sends them off with a wave, already calling the legendary knight a total stiff for skipping the small talk. Blaze is practically melting from the stress. Pointing at his soaked clothes, Miria assumes the Sword Saint presence was just that intense. He just sighs, knowing the killing intent was not even the biggest issue. There is zero doubt about her skills. One look was enough for Blaze to realize she is a beast. She fought her way up to the rank of general through sheer strength alone. Surprised by his insight, Miria realizes he actually knows the lady. She grills him for pretending to be a stranger earlier. Our boy stays quiet, looking drained by the secret. The truth finally comes out. That warrior is actually Elizabeth Heinix von Bergengreen. She is the third princess of the entire nation. Miria completely short-circuits after finding out Elizabeth is a legit royal princess. Blaze drops the truth bomb while the Sword Saint just stands there looking like a main character. Still reeling from the news, Miria demands to know why a princess is even here. Blaze brings up the northern border troops moving out to get her up to speed. Connecting the dots with the map, Miria remembers the Britannia Empire. Apparently her divine blessing is so cracked that the northern enemies would not dare attack. It finally hits her that she accidentally brought world peace. Since the border is now safe, the princess who used to defend it has absolutely nothing left to do. Blaze still can't wrap his head around why a royal princess is babysitting an apprentice. Miria agrees that it is massive overkill while her internal alarm starts screaming about the intensity of their new guest. Our MC tries to pivot this into a dragon hunting trip for the graduation exam just so she can score some high-quality steak. Blaze immediately shuts it down because you do not just send royalty into a boss fight, leaving Miria mourning her lost slow-life dreams. Just as she gives up hope, Barbara walks in with some unexpected news about their schedule. It turns out that getting out of the house might actually be an option after all. Elizabeth actually left a written permit behind for a day trip to the Duchy of Phyllis. Miria is already celebrating the win while Blaze just watches the chaos unfold, wondering how they actually pulled this off. News of local herb fields makes Miria suspect a trap to get her back to work. She changes her tune fast once she hears about the lakeside villa they get to stay in. The vibe shifts when Barbara reveals the princess has not visited the lake in a long time. Miria nearly short-circuits as she realizes her royal bodyguard is joining the squad for the trip. According to Blaze, the destination is the home of the princess's mother, making the visit mandatory. Miria grips her head in stress as her dreams of a relaxing vacation go up in smoke. A new plan emerges to charm the local noble ladies using demonic sweets. The girls get fired up, deciding to use the power of sugar to conquer the princess next. Miria is all in on the vacation vibes, declaring it is time to reset and prep for the trip. Blaze is not feeling the energy though, reminding her they do not exactly have a valid excuse to just ditch their responsibilities. Our girl starts cooking up a massive supply list that is twice as long as usual. She is out here planning portable heaters and cooler boxes, even dragging poor Ted and Klaus into her scheme for the perfect summer snacks. After some intense staring and deep thought, Miria decides they need a portable toilet for the long journey. Blaze immediately shuts that down, telling her to just use the woods like a normal person. Blaze is visibly struggling as he realizes what her sales pitch to the princess is going to look like. The sheer audacity of her plan has him sweating through his armor while Miria just keeps the momentum going. Miria realized the princess is actually the perfect excuse to go wild with her crafting projects. Blaze just looked on, already exhausted by her logic. She started listing off a fleet of vehicles they would need for the trip, including a leisure buggy for the lakeside. Then, she dropped the ultimate bombshell. She wanted to go for a swim. Barbara immediately shut that idea down, reminding Miria that she was 13 and needed to act like a lady. Between her and Blaze, they made it clear that guarding a swimming target was a total security nightmare. Miria could not believe they still had such old school views on lake safety. A light bulb suddenly went off in her head, and Blaze immediately felt a chill as he saw her plotting a new solution. At the lake outskirts, our girl decides to take her new prototype for a spin. She is absolutely flooring it, and the crew is screaming for their lives as she misses the brakes. The test drive ends in a massive splash, sending Miria flying into the water. Blaze and Barbara scramble to the shore, terrified that their boss just wiped out for good. Miria brushes it off, explaining that the steam engine just had a bit more propulsion than she expected. She claims the death-defying speed is actually perfect for leisure use. Even while shivering and soaked, she is still trying to justify her high-speed boat plan. Her pitch is immediately interrupted by a sneeze, proving she probably needs a towel more than a motor. Miria is officially over it, standing there soaked to the bone after her little stunt. A quiet uff is all she can manage as she deals with the post-crash vibes. Barbara immediately jumps into mom mode, trying to save our MC from a cold with a quick towel dry. Miria finally admits defeat, agreeing it is time to grab some dry clothes and head home. Better food after leaving the farm life means her old clothes are finally starting to feel a bit too tight. Blaze takes one look at the situation and asks if she has actually grown. Barbara is losing her mind on the side, shocked that Blaze would even notice the change. The MC just looks down at herself, clearly caught off guard by the realization. Blaze actually has zero riz and asks if the MC just gained weight. Barbara immediately puts him in his place, reminding him that mentioning a girl's weight is basically a felony. Barbara takes charge and tells Blaze to handle the boat cleanup while she drags Miria home. Our boy is left standing there, once again stuck with all the chores while the ladies head out. They hit up a local shop to find some dry drip for the soaked alchemist. The clerk thinks they are just two sisters having a rough day, and Barbara decides to just go with the flow. The shopkeeper tries to push a childish shirt featuring a lake monster named Neshu. Barbara tries to be nice about it, but Miria shuts that idea down with a hard no. Barbara wants a summer fit for the road, and the MC agrees the heat is getting real. The clerk pulls out some fans and a mystery cooling potion to see if they are interested. Our girl gets a sudden idea. Barbara picks up a fan with a design that is just straight up cursed, so the MC shuts it down immediately to focus on actual heat protection. Barbara requests a custom pocket for some ready-made gear, sparking the MC's curiosity. Even after the clerk warns her about the hefty price tag, Barbara reminds her that they are playing with infinite gold. The name on the order causes the clerk to lose it. She sprints away to find the manager, leaving our MC with a heavy dose of déjà vu. Barbara is curious about the plan, but our MC is already busy stuffing a cooling magic stone into her pocket. The magic tech is an instant win, and our girl is finally vibing in her own personal cooling system. Now that the tech is confirmed, it is time to go on a full summer shopping spree. They finally wrap things up and head outside to find Blaze, who has clearly been waiting way too long. Blaze is completely lost as the girls start discussing their laundry situation. Barbara keeps it a little too real about their lack of spares while Miria tries to pivot the talk back to her magic tech. Blaze steps in with a quick fix. He hands over some magic stones and suggests they just toss them into a pocket instead of overthinking the placement. The cooling effect is an instant win. Blaze is out here vibing with some serious main character energy while Miria wonders if she should downsize the hardware for a better aesthetic. Barbara thinks it is time for a wardrobe glow-up, but Blaze breaks the news that the nightlife requires heavy armor all day. Major L for his summer fashion sense. Our girl levels up the plan by offering to add blade resistance to their outfits. She thinks it is the peak of fashion, but Blaze is definitely not feeling the look. Barbara realizes this tech would straight up bankrupt every armor shop in the kingdom. Blaze tries to keep the group grounded before they get too cocky. This dude gets a massive reality check when Miria warns that the gear won't stop master level strikes. Now he is just wondering what kind of monsters he is supposed to be fighting. Fast forward a few days and the squad is finally ready to roll. The girls are hyped, but Blaze already looks like he needs a vacation. Miria thanks Ted and Klaus for getting everything ready on such short notice. They packed so much gear that she is starting to think this day trip is looking more like a cross-country expedition. The boys play it humble, acting like it was no big deal to help her out. They are definitely just happy to be part of the squad. Reality finally sets in as they realize royalty will be eating their food. Klaus is shaking from the pressure, and Elizabeth watches the boys while they lose their cool. The crew is sweating over the idea of Her Highness riding in a horseless carriage. The driver promises to be on his best behavior, but his reputation as a speed freak has everyone nervous. Miria gives her final stamp of approval, telling the boys that their work turned out basically perfect. Ted is finally breathing a sigh of relief, feeling way better now that the master is actually happy with the results. The squad looks up as Lyle and the Sword Saint finally pull up to the mansion. Ted and Klaus are already in their feelings, straight up sweating because Elizabeth's aura is not something you can just ignore. Lyle is completely baffled by the sight of the horseless carriage, but Miria tells him to just keep it simple and treat it like a regular ride. The boys in the back are still acting like statues, probably waiting for the scary lady to look away. Our girl goes into full host mode, trying to treat Elizabeth like actual royalty. The Sword Saint keeps it humble though, making it clear she is just here to do her job and nothing more. Princess treatment is off the table as Elizabeth makes her stance clear. Her aura says everything her words do not, leaving no room for a casual chat. Apologies fly as the group feels the heavy pressure of the legendary night. Once the air clears, the horseless carriage finally pulls away from the mansion to start the journey. Silence fills the ride as the group heads out. Our girl is not about to let the mood stay down though, already prepping her secret weapon to break the ice and win the saint over. The journey has barely started, and Miria is already struggling with the heavy silence. Nudging Lyle to break the ice seems like a good idea, but the poor guy is clearly out of his depth. The group starts whispering about their high-level guest, debating if Lyle is finally used to the pressure. A quick reminder from Miria warns that calling the saint a princess is off limits, even though Elizabeth is sitting right there. The Sword Saint finally breaks her silence, and the sudden address catches Miria completely off guard. Maintaining her composure is the goal, but she can only manage a shaky reply. Elizabeth notes that they are making record time and suggests taking a breather. This rare moment of chill comes from a knight who usually feels like a walking storm. The saint is ready to skip the breaks and head straight for the lake to maximize their fun. Fascination takes over as she learns about a vehicle that never gets tired, unlike the horses she is used to. The conversation shifts into high-stakes logistics as Elizabeth imagines these buggies connecting major cities. Internal panic kicks in for Miria as her simple ride starts sounding like a national revolution. Miria tries to dial back the hype by explaining that this is just a prototype and not ready for the big leagues. While the saint seems to accept the answer, the potential for total change is already in the air. Counting down the red tape like a corporate survivor, Miria realizes they lack blacksmiths, drivers, and even the roads to put them on. Leaning in with a look that screams skill issue, Elizabeth wonders if these minor hurdles are really all that is stopping her. The saint basically calls it easy mode. Since rare materials aren't required, she figures a bit of land and labor will fix everything, leaving Miria and Alma sweating. Brain blast. Miria realizes they still haven't filed the patent for Ted, their favorite blacksmith. Closing out the worry with a casual flex, Elizabeth promises to handle the solution from her end. Miria can only stand there in silent terror. Leaving the stress in the dust, the buggy tears through the forest as they decide to prioritize the rare trip over logistics. Lakeside arrival. Alma's geeking out over the view while the rest of the crew gets ready for a day of buggy riding and boating. Blaze is out here struggling with a magical microwave, and Miria isn't even trying to hide her judgment. Pure tech klutz energy. While the crew gets lunch ready, Elizabeth is just standing by a tree, giving off major do not disturb vibes. Lyle's over here trying to be considerate, but the social wall is high. Our boy Lyle steps up to invite her for lunch, but he's met with that stone-cold stare. She tries to pull the professional card and skip lunch, but Lyle won't take no for an answer, eventually getting her to accept a drink. One sip of the drink and she's shook by how cold it is. Lyle just gives her a knowing smirk and tells her to check out the setup. Walking over to the table, the saint's brain short-circuits at the sight of a full-on feast in the middle of nowhere. Fresh bread and steaming soup. It's like a 5-star restaurant just spawned in the forest. Alma breaks down the magic tech while Miria hands out sandwiches like it is no big deal. High-level alchemy for low-level snacks, let's go. One bite in and Elizabeth realizes she's experiencing a masterpiece. She starts connecting the dots between Miria's apothecary skills and this high-level catering spread. The Sword Saint turns into a full-on food critic, breaking down the bread texture like a pro judge. Alma's just impressed by how serious she's taking her lunch. Elizabeth starts wondering if magic stones are the secret ingredient, but the squad just laughs off the idea of flavor-enhancing gems. She admits the Royal Palace cuisine can't even compare to this. The flavor profile has her completely lost in the sauce. Alma drops the reveal that Klaus handled the whole spread solo. It's a MasterChef flex that has the saint reevaluating her standards. She's out here having a whole crisis about why this legendary food is being kept a secret from the rest of the world. Alma leans in with a smirk, getting ready to reveal the next course of the meal. Alma presents the grand finale of the meal, a bowl of ice cream straight from the MasterChef kitchen. It is the ultimate flex for a lakeside picnic. Our MC is already counting her wins, convinced that no noblewoman can resist a top-tier dessert. She has that master plan energy going. Total vibe check failure. The Sword Saint drops a hard pass claiming she does not do sweets or luxuries. Panic mode activated. If they do not win her over now, they are definitely getting a lecture for their reckless driving later. The squad pivots the strategy, using Blaze as a test subject since he is usually not a fan of sugar. Everyone is watching as he takes the first bite. Blaze drops the most mid-review in history, barely acknowledging that it is cold and good for summer. The boss is not impressed by his lack of descriptive power. Alma cannot even hold it together after that dry response. Meanwhile, Elizabeth is finally starting to realize how these legendary treats could actually cause a national incident. Elizabeth's curiosity finally wins out. She admits that after hearing that review, she is actually interested in trying a bite. One taste and she is completely floored. She calls it the devil's sweetness because the flavor is just that dangerous. The Sword Saint is having a whole crisis. She admits she hasn't tasted anything like this since she was a kid, and it is basically factory resetting her understanding of food. Our MC is back with that legendary smug energy. She knew nobody could resist the charm of ice cream, and now Elizabeth is even asking for seconds. The feeding frenzy has officially started. Elizabeth is out here clutching the entire pot while Miria tries to tell them both to slow down. The inevitable sugar crash hits like a truck. Both of them are regretting their life choices as their stomachs stage a full-scale rebellion. Miria is already calling the squad over because it is time to reveal her next top-tier invention. Miria works hard to lift the covering, revealing her latest unhinged invention. It is the Anywhere Emergency Toilet, and the squad is genuinely questioning her sanity right now. She breaks down the technical details, showing off a makeshift flushing system powered by a mini steam engine pump. Miria is not taking no for an answer. She basically forces the Sword Saint into the shack, telling her she will understand the hype once she actually tries it. While the birds chirp in the background, Miria reminds Alma that they have to take turns because there is only one stall available. Elizabeth emerges from the shack with a glowing aura. She is so impressed that she immediately demands they deploy these toilets across the entire kingdom. Alma follows right after, and she is just as obsessed. She thinks these are amazing and wants them installed in every facility in the capital. Our MC has to hit them with a reality check. Dismantling buildings and running plumbing is a logistical challenge unless they are starting from scratch. Elizabeth is already mapping out the kingdom-wide construction plans. Miria sweats as her simple invention scales into a national project. Blaze gets a good laugh out of the chaos while the Sword Saint walks off. Our MC is not amused and immediately calls him out for the shade. The roast continues as Blaze tells her that her common sense is officially broken. Lyle stays out of it, just hoping to survive the conversation. Now that the Saint is on board, the speed limit is history. Miria is ready to push her magical vehicles to the limit. She consults the travel guide to keep them on track. Gathering rare herbs is still the main objective of the mission. The harvesting phase is a disaster. Alma's out here picking poison mushrooms with a huge smile while Lyle has a meltdown in the background. The crew spends the day off-roading and sailing across the lake. They wrap things up with a dragon steak feast, even if Alma is still munching on those suspicious mushrooms. Blaze sighs as the trip finally winds down. Carrying her loot, our MC remarks how fast the fun times flew by. Back at the site, the two-speed demons actually raced their buggies to the limit. Elizabeth admits she did not see that competitive streak coming from Blaze, while the others watched the dust settle. Barbara realizes that Elizabeth was sold on the idea much easier than expected. Meanwhile, our MC is having a total logistical crisis because every single magic bag is packed to the brim with buggies, boats, and even those portable toilets. Then there is the mountain of herbs they actually came for. It is just sitting there on the ground with absolutely nowhere to go. The passenger car is a strict 4-seater, so there is zero room for the extra cargo. Elizabeth points out the obvious, as they cannot just leave all that hard work behind in the woods. Determination kicks in as they start cramming every last bag into the carriage. They are making it fit no matter what. The overloaded vehicle finally hits the road for the long trip home. Back at the mansion, the crew finally arrives safe and sound. Barbara is relieved that the expedition ended without any major disasters. Blaze is completely drained, barely managing to trade greetings after the hectic journey. The carriage door swings open with the announcement that they finally made it home. Lyle immediately puts a finger to his lips, signaling for the night to keep the noise down. Blaze stands there in silence as he takes in the scene. Our MC and Alma are fast asleep on the shoulders of the Sword Saint, and Elizabeth actually decides to let it slide just for today. Lyle is shivering as he hears stories about a ghost scream that is haunting the capital. Apparently, the sound targets a different person every single time. The rumors say the sound jumps from the castle to the woods, keeping everyone on high alert. You never know where it will strike next. Alma decides to mess with him, leaning in with a creepy grin to say the next scream is coming from this very room. Pure panic sets in as the door handle begins to rattle and Lyle lets out a soul-crushing yell. Blaze casually strolls in with a basket, wondering why the kid is losing his mind over a simple visit. Alma is cackling in the background while Blaze clarifies that the noise is just the local military training. He is surprised the kid has not heard the news yet. It turns out the Sword Saint is acting as a special advisor, and her coaching methods are enough to make even veterans scream for mercy. Elizabeth steps away from her guarding duties, admitting that she still has personal business to settle. Alma realizes the legendary Sword Saint has more important things to do than babysit. The ghost talk continues as Lyle puzzles over how the screams keep jumping from place to place. Alma floats a theory that the haunting is actually a high-level training exercise for the local troops. Blaze pulls the plug on the spooky atmosphere by revealing the next ghost is just a local old man. Alma is fuming that he ruined the summer horror marathon with nothing but cold logic. Lyle wonders if it is just the few of them left in the quiet building. The search ends at the couch where Miria has officially checked out of reality. A heavy silence fills the room as the apprentices witness their master reach peak exhaustion. Trying to beat the summer heat with a few scares backfired when Miria took the stories a bit too literally. Blaze isn't buying the dramatics, calling her a pathetic sight for still being crushed by travel fatigue. The lectures about setting a good example fall on deaf ears as Miria stays glued to the cushions. She is perfectly content to let her pupils run the show while she recharges. The quest board is looking stacked. Alma's officially a pro at drying herbs while Lyle is finally churning out some high-grade potions. The squad is feeling the hype, bragging about how they are finally living that peaceful slow life dream. Blaze just watches from the sidelines, clearly not buying the performance. Alma demands some actual excitement for once. Blaze just smirks and pulls out a basket, telling them he has something way better than a news update. He drops the reveal of a top-tier dessert that looks straight out of a 5-star bakery. That creamy center and the cherry on top is a total game changer. The energy shifts as Miria starts wondering if it is a secret holiday or something. Blaze just kills the mood by reminding her it is definitely not Mother's Day. Trust levels are at an all-time low. The kids are convinced this is a scam and that Blaze must be an imposter because he is never this thoughtful. Miria digs in and starts questioning the secret recipe while she ascends to dessert heaven. She assumes the head chef whipped this up, but Blaze drops a truth bomb that says otherwise. Alma's losing it over the thought of Blaze being a secret master chef. He just plays it cool, preparing to drop the real source. The truth comes out that the royal palace's head chef actually stepped down to apprentice under Klaus just to master this recipe. The squad can barely process the flex of having a top-tier royal chef as a student. Blaze tries to explain the political weight of the situation, but the magnitude is clearly flying over Miria's head. Having the country's best chef training under their roof is a power move. Miria thinks it is just a heartwarming story about humility and lifelong learning. Blaze is frustrated because she is ignoring the high-stakes diplomacy involved. The discussion shifts to the Sword Saint, whose sudden appointment as a bodyguard makes zero sense through normal channels. Blaze concludes that a move this fast could only come from a direct royal command. A quick look at Elizabeth's resume proves she is a legend, serving as a general at 18 before becoming Lyle's personal guard. Every piece of her history confirms she is far more than just a typical knight. Blaze can only watch with a resigned look while Miria celebrates winning over a legend with a simple sugar bribe. Our girl is just happy they charmed a high-level connection without any trouble. Blaze is sweating bullets, calling out our girl for being way too relaxed while a storm is clearly brewing. The squad is stressing over a powerful figure who has both the skills and the drive to shake things up, all while someone's foot taps impatiently in the background. Elizabeth kicks the door down like she owns the place, bringing along a very stressed Ted who warns that something massive is about to go down. Looking completely unfazed by the tension, the Sword Saint casually drops the news that all their preparations are finally finished. Miria's brain is basically a 404 error after hearing that Ted has been drafted as the general director for everything from plumbing to high-tech steam carriages. The state isn't playing around, giving Ted the royal seal and the keys to every single workshop in the capital to speedrun this industrial revolution. Miria is having a full-blown meltdown over the scale of the operation, but Elizabeth just calmly adds even more items to the national project list. Miria is looking at the inventions she apparently inspired, but she has zero memory of ever mentioning a paddle steamer. Elizabeth claims our girl literally drew the blueprints on the way home. Miria is having a total glitch in the matrix trying to figure out if she actually said that or not. Ted admits his blacksmithing skills have hit a wall, and he needs some alchemical magic to make these complex parts a reality. The blueprints reveal a faucet and pipes that leak constantly without modern gaskets. It turns out Miria's tech is just too advanced for the current era to manufacture. Elizabeth turns to the group with a serious look, requesting a massive supply of magic stones to fuel the industrial shift. Then comes the jump scare. She casually orders 400 full water systems, sending Miria into an immediate state of panic over the workload. Elizabeth actually starts tearing up because she thinks 400 units is way too low. She blames the palace for hogging the resources while Miria just stands there in stunned silence. The Sword Saint asks for more time away from guard duty to handle national affairs, leaving Lyle stammering in agreement. Elizabeth dashes out to coordinate the departments while Miria's soul leaves her body at the thought of the upcoming workload. Miria is already on the next task, but Blaze is stunned to see her holding magic stones with her toes. This dude points out that using toes for alchemy is unheard of, but Miria snaps back that she isn't some circus act. Working with both hands and feet, Miria jokes about reaching sixfold synthesis, a level of power that would be legendary. Lyle realizes that if quadruple synthesis can regrow limbs, sixfold power might be able to regenerate an entire body from a single hair. The idea of a hair strand turning into a clone sounds fun to Lyle, but Miria immediately shuts down the weird experiment. Miria thinks she found the ultimate life hack by dumping her chores on a clone, but the squad is already betting the two versions of her would just end up in a fight. She is already dreaming of a luxury cruise, leaving the guys confused because they definitely thought this was supposed to be a serious trade ship. Our girl regrets her life choices and wishes she built a leisure ship instead, but things get awkward when the group realizes nobody actually knows who they are trading with. A map check suggests they import spices and fruit from the south, though the current trade volume is way too small to justify a ship this large. Spices. This MC is already drooling at the thought of finally getting some curry in this world. She stands up and heroically declares the southern continent as their next stop, scaring the life out of Alma with the sudden movement. Blaze hits her with a cold vibe check, asking if she actually thinks her workload allows for a vacation. Reality hits hard and Miria is left pouting as her travel dreams crumble. Lyle suddenly starts dropping apologies out of nowhere, leaving Miria totally confused as he mumbles about wishing he was more useful. Miria just laughs it off, reassuring him that she would never dump her chores on an apprentice just to go have fun. Lyle stares at a magic stone in his hand, blaming his own lack of skill for why his master has to resort to using her feet for alchemy. Miria breaks out the infographics for a quick lesson on how magic output fluctuates based on Li lines and physical training. Even with the explanation, the kid is still visibly frustrated while Miria reminds him that steady growth is the only way forward. Miria gives him a bright smile and says she is counting on him, but Blaze immediately kills the mood by reminding them a vacation is off the table. Out on the balcony later that night, Blaze admits he only knows combat but warns the kid that charging in recklessly is never the answer. Lyle insists he is not rushing, but he still feels the pressure to contribute right now. Blaze just listens, sensing the kid's growing frustration as the weight of his goals starts to sink in. Blaze suggests asking Elizabeth for some training tips once she gets back, knowing she has plenty of experience. Lyle just stares, remembering her reputation for being a beast on the training field. Blaze quickly pivots, wondering if it is even okay to force that kind of torture training on a VP. Lyle catches the slip-up immediately, asking if he actually just called it torture. Laughing it off, Blaze tells him to leave the heavy lifting to the pros so he does not have to deal with another reckless headache. Meanwhile, Miria lets out a sneeze in the back, oblivious to the fact that they are talking about her. As they walk through the corridor, Blaze admits that even Miria probably would not go as far as Elizabeth's brutal regime. Lyle nods along, but the gap between him and his master is clearly weighing on his mind. Later that night, our boy stares at the weak flicker of fire in his palm, realizing his output is barely a fraction of what Miria can do. The path to her level feels longer than ever. He clenches his fist, replaying the memory of her pulling off high-speed alchemy with both her hands and feet like some kind of circus act. To him, her skill level is not just a goal, it is an anomaly. Lyle walks away, realizing that while he is grinding for quadruple synthesis, his master is probably already mastering sixfold. The gap between them is only getting wider. Staring at her silhouette through the window, the cold truth finally lands. Miria is not the type to wait around for anyone to catch up. A sudden spark of desperation hits his eyes. If he cannot win by the rules, he will just have to go further than even his master dares to. Our boy sprints out the gate and heads deep into the city. Somewhere out there is a destination that holds the key to the shortcut he needs. With some high-intensity training, Elizabeth is screaming at her soldiers to keep running even if they start coughing up blood. She reminds them that this pain is way better than dying on a real battlefield. The scene shifts as a messenger delivers a letter with an official wax seal. He tells Elizabeth that the Prime Minister has a matter he needs to discuss with her right away. Elizabeth scans the document and her face immediately turns serious. It looks like envoys from the southern continent are finally making their move. Back at the mansion, Alma's grinding out her own training session. She is putting everything into her sword swings while huffing and puffing through the workout. Our boy Blaze watches her form and admits that her swings are actually starting to look decent. Alma just laughs while Miria keeps an eye on them from the background. Feeling confident, Alma draws her blade and demands a real fight right now. Blaze shuts her down and tells her it is still way too early for live combat. She complains that only doing the basics is a massive drag, but he warns her that swinging a sword around like that is just dangerous. She takes a second to look at her weapon and admits that she knew this would be the case. The two of them stand in the middle of a field as the training session hits a brief pause. Alma says practicing alone feel kind of lonely and it has already been a full month since the training started. Lyle sends a letter explaining that he is training under Elizabeth to close the power gap with Miria. Our girl casually asks Alma if she wants to head out too, which leaves her stunned. Blaze is feeling a bit insecure about his teaching skills for Alma, but Miria just calls him a worrywart. He insists that he would never leave her in such a harsh spot. Miria brings up how much he complained about bringing Lyle back at first too. Blaze snaps back that she only feels that way because she never saw Elizabeth's brutal training firsthand. The silence from Lyle is really starting to get to Blaze. He complains that he cannot even go check on him because the kid is moving around too much. Miria warns him that checking up on Lyle would just be embarrassing for the boy. She teases him for being overprotective while he lurks behind a tree in the distance. Miria tells him that if he is going to act like a father, he needs to trust his kid and wait. Our boy Blaze is not having the comparison and immediately demands to know who she is calling a dad. Alma decides that the perfect dad is basically just a walking wallet. Miria points out that her view of fatherhood is a little bit biased. She tries to bribe Blaze with the title of Papa in exchange for a favor. He is not impressed and asks what the point of a deal is if he gets nothing out of it. It turns out she just wanted to steal his buggy. Blaze snaps and makes it clear that he is not handing Max over to anyone. His sudden outburst reveals he actually named the ride. Miria is just confused by the whole thing. Miria admits that driving was actually a struggle, so she was perfectly fine with walking away from it. But Alma admits since buggies are suddenly the latest trend, she's decided to put in the work and start practicing. Miria is confused because as far as she knows, they own the only buggy in existence. Alma breaks the news that her boss reported a flood of new orders already coming in. The trend is spreading way faster than Miria expected. She thought she was a pioneer, but it turns out she just accidentally started a national craze. Now she's just left wondering how the secret leaked so fast. Ted officially points the finger at the real snitch. Apparently, the knights who came in to order buggies sold out the one person who couldn't keep his mouth shut. Blaze just stands there in total silence while Miria and Alma hit him with the most judgmental stare imaginable. Flashback to Blaze absolutely terrorizing the local guards in his custom ride. He was doing high-speed laps around them while roasting their horses for being too slow to protect anyone. Ted explained that everyone Blaze passed has become obsessed with getting a buggy of their own. Miria realized that this sudden viral trend felt way too familiar to her past life. Blaze tried to justify his behavior by explaining how superior the tech is for the military. He pointed out that unlike a horse, you can just fold a buggy into a magic bag for any emergency. Miria was not impressed by his logic and gave him a reality check. She asked him if adults are ever supposed to have self-control or if they just play with toys all day. The technical side is a headache since Miria is the only person who can synthesize the tires. Between the rubber and the complex alchemical parts, Ted cannot just mass-produce these on his own. Ted admitted he tried to figure out the process himself to avoid bothering Miria, but his solo attempts were a bust. Blaze finally swallowed his pride and gave a genuine apology for the mess he caused. Ted did not mind the failure since he was just using the opportunity to refine his basic skills. Miria got excited when she realized the steam carriage was finally up and running for its test run. Ted reveals that retrofitting an existing ship saved them months of development, putting the paddle steamer on the fast track. Miria is genuinely stunned since she didn't expect the project to move this quickly. While using a real ship as a test subject seems risky, Miria's interest peaks the moment the southern continent is mentioned. Ted describes a mysterious businessman who appeared out of nowhere to fund everything without asking a single question. Miria is desperate for a peek at the imports, but Ted notes the funder is as elusive as a ghost. He promises to send word as soon as the mystery man drops by for the upcoming test run. Heading back to the research building, Miria decides to spend her time crafting some new buggy parts. She gives Barbara a bright greeting as the group finally settles back in at home after their trip. The peace is shattered when a total stranger appears in the room, catching Miria completely off guard. The man just tips his hat and calmly introduces himself as Bill. This is Bill, the representative of the Bordeaux Trading Company, and he drops a hint about his southern continent imports to see if the name rings a bell. Miria is ecstatic, shouting that she was just talking about wanting to meet him. Bill is amused by the warm welcome, while Blaze stands in the back wondering how things worked out this perfectly. Bill gets mysterious, dropping a hint that he brought the real treasure for them to see. The ingredients reveal as a total vibe as Bill displays exotic spices that have the girls shouting with joy. This dude is feeling himself, explaining that a merchant is nothing without intel while Blaze just looks exhausted. He tries to explain the trade routes, but the girls are already busy rating the samples and ignoring him. Alma nearly breaks a tooth on a raw pod while Miria geeks out over the perfect curry spices. They strike gold with cacao and coffee beans, sparking a celebration that leaves Blaze completely confused. Rare as they may be, the girls are already planning their next move for these niche items. Bill explains that coffee and chocolate are just treated like fruit since they spoil so fast, limiting imports to small batches. Miria finally realizes why these legendary ingredients haven't taken off in this world yet. Miria makes it clear they are going to need a massive supply, but Bill tells her she will understand the hype once she tastes the prototype. She grabs a few beans to test, and Bill is happy to hand over his entire stash. While the girls treat Bill like a hero, Blaze isn't sold on the act. He watches with a skeptical look, convinced this merchant is way too shady to trust. Miria kicks things into high gear, using multi-limb alchemy to roast, grind, and brew the coffee all at once. Bill is left speechless as he watches her work through the entire professional process in seconds. A freshly brewed cup of alchemical coffee is ready for its debut. The aroma is incredible, and Miria is pretty satisfied with how the brew turned out. Slurping it down, Miria explains how the roasting process releases that iconic aroma. She even breaks down the whole extraction cycle from coffee cherry to the final drink for her confused audience. The bitterness hits hard, sending Miria into a total state of shock after just one sip. She immediately tries to dump the cup on Blaze, but he is not about to drink whatever just caused that reaction. It's Alma's turn now, but she is more worried about the social disaster of an indirect kiss with Blaze. While they argue over etiquette, one sip of that black coffee and Alma is instantly regretting her life choices. Alma finally gives up on the bitterness and tries to pawn the cup off on Blaze. He just stands there looking skeptical of her sudden change of heart. Blaze takes a sip and admits the flavor is strictly for grown-ups. Bill is already celebrating, convinced this addictive brew is going to be their next big hit. The crew starts imagining a future where every home starts their morning with a fresh cup. Alma mentions that adding milk and sugar makes it great for everyone, while Miria highlights the caffeine boost. The business talk heats up with plans to bring this coffee to the restaurant scene. With spices and cacao also on the way, their food empire is about to expand fast. Miria tries to call it a day and thank Bill for the samples, but he is not finished yet. He stops them cold, claiming the real topic is only just beginning. Bill adjusts his hat with a suspicious grin, revealing that the coffee was just the warm-up. Miria realized right then that this merchant had a hidden agenda all along. Bill drops the bombshell about southern envoys heading their way, and Miria is already smelling trouble. Miria is totally lost and asks what he is even talking about, but Bill just keeps hyping up the country's insane growth. Between the new steam carriages and top-tier potions, the kingdom is finally getting some international clout. Now everyone is talking about the legendary Saintess and that magic sword. Blaze is not having it and asks if Bill seriously expects a kid to lead national negotiations. Bill just laughs it off, explaining that the brass put him in charge because he knows the local culture. He admits there is one major catch to this whole plan. The entire international hype train depends on a single person, and unfortunately, nobody else knows how anything works. Bill reveals that Princess Elizabeth herself ordered him to sneakily ask Miria for help. Miria just sighs, realizing the Sword Saint is behind another stressful request. Bill basically asks our girl to play the part of his daughter so she can back him up from the shadows. Miria realizes she is essentially becoming a tiny enemy detective. Blaze is just annoyed that the Sword Saint keeps dumping these high-stakes jobs on them at the very last second. Miria is all in because she wants to taste every single dish the southern continent has to offer. Blaze just sighs, realizing that you can apparently win over any girl in this group with a few fancy imports. Miria asks about rubber trees to revolutionize their tire game, but the merchant is totally clueless about the botany. He offers to hunt down whatever she describes, and she is already planning out a future filled with curry and chocolate. Our MC goes into full villain mode, planning to hook everyone on addictive gourmet food to lock down the trade deals. She is laughing like a mad scientist while Blaze starts wondering if these ingredients are even legal. Cut to the southern continent port where a formal request for a very specific tree is being delivered. The locals are told to bring back anything that leaks white sticky sap. The southern representatives accept the invitation and promise to have the requested items ready. This new dude with the necklaces seems to already have a plan in motion. One of the guys mentions that the request is actually pretty bizarre since those trees are basically poisonous to the touch. He remembers getting a nasty rash from them as a kid, but his partner just stays quiet and keeps walking. Down at the docks, the paddle steamer is finally ready for its debut. Damien and his partner are already dissecting the design, wondering if those wheels mean this thing can run on land. Noticing the southern wind, Damien explains how they will use side sails to keep the return trip efficient. Normal sailing is just a constant struggle of zigzagging against the wind, which kills speed and doubles travel distance. The math is simple. Folding the sails and letting the wheels handle straight-line travel is a genius move. Now the real mystery is the engine. Using humans or animals is a non-starter because they eat up too much cargo space. Damien figures this has to be connected to that horseless carriage tech everyone is talking about, and his partner is already sold on the theory. Damien brushes it off as basic logic, but his partner is already sold on his genius. The real mystery is what is actually fueling this city's sudden technological shift. Damien reveals his true colors as a high-tier alchemist from the south. With his magical book and ancestral wisdom, he is determined to dig up the truth. Damien and his partner touch down in the kingdom with one goal. They are here to expose the secret sauce behind this city's sudden technological glow-up. Damien warns his boy to keep his alchemist status on the low so the locals do not clam up. Just as he is telling him to play it cool, a steam carriage zooms by and shatters the vibe. The partner loses his mind and clings to Damien for dear life when he sees the iron chunk moving without a single horse in sight. Bill hops out with a laugh to apologize for the jump scare. He invites the southern duo to hitch a ride in the kingdom's famous horseless carriage. Cruising through the city is a game changer, and the partner is obsessed with how smooth the ride is. While his buddy gushes about not having to deal with horses anymore, Damien stays quiet. He tries to process the engineering madness happening around him. Even after seeing it up close, the southern genius is stumped. He cannot wrap his head around how a metal frame can carry 3 men at high speeds without a drop of traditional magic. Bill is doing his best to play tour guide, explaining that steam-powered alchemy is way safer than using actual horses. Damien's partner is not quite buying the vibe, admitting the whole ride feels a little unsettling. The genius envoy goes full investigator mode, demanding a detailed technical breakdown for his official report. Bill immediately starts sweating bullets because he has zero clue how to explain the engineering. Time for the oldest trick in the book. Bill tries to distract the investigator with a lunch break, and it works perfectly on the partner, who is already dreaming of a hot meal. The genius envoy finally admits he is hungry, giving Bill just enough room to breathe. They pull up to the destination, letting the merchant dodge the interrogation for now. Elsewhere in the city, Blaze is already exhausted just looking at the sheer amount of food being prepared. They have set up shop at one of Bill's local restaurants for the big meeting. Our MC unveils a legendary spread with a massive ta-da. insisting that this mountain of food is barely enough to welcome their guests. Blaze sighs, reminding her they were just supposed to be backup. Miria is not listening. She is already focused on using southern ingredients to hook the envoys for life. Miria is already dreaming of a massive business empire, convinced that her new menu is about to become a national sensation. Blaze is not having it, telling her to stop getting ahead of herself before the deal is even signed. The dinner bell finally rings and Miria snaps into service mode as the guests of honor reach the restaurant. Bill gives a loud shout to announce the arrival of the southern envoys, leading them straight into the trap our MC has set. Blaze gives our girl a final warning to hide her alchemy skills, but she is already diving headfirst into her waitress persona. She heads off to greet her fake father, leaving her protector behind to deal with the mounting pressure on his own. The genius envoy stops in his tracks as he catches a scent that feels far too familiar for this part of the world. Back at the counter, Blaze is trying his best to play along while the others keep using his annoying undercover nicknames. Our MC finally drops the food at the table, letting the complex and spicy aroma of her legendary curry fill the room. Damien is instantly on high alert, noting that the smell is unlike anything else he has encountered in this kingdom. The vibe shifts instantly as Damien begins to suspect that there is a lot more to this little waitress than she is letting on. He lets out a quiet hum of confusion, feeling like he has just stumbled onto a secret that was never meant to be found. The quiet is shattered when the envoy suddenly shouts about alchemists still existing on his home continent. Everyone is caught off guard as the hidden tension finally bowls over, leaving the rest of the group in a desperate struggle to maintain their cover. The partner is working overtime to save the cover story, claiming Damien is definitely not an alchemist. Blaze just looks at him with pure judgment, pointing out that nobody even brought it up. Blaze is sweating bullets, asking her how she even spotted a fellow alchemist when he sees nothing. Our girl just shrugs it off, explaining that they can basically smell their own kind. Blaze immediately goes into damage control mode and shuts her up, reminding her that she was supposed to keep her skills a secret. She tries to argue back through his hand, pointing out that the cat is already out of the bag. The vibe gets heavy as Damien stares her down. It is like he is seeing right through their little act. Damien is not buying the intuition excuse, questioning how a kid could possibly distinguish between different alchemists. Our MC just tilts her head and wonders if it is just because his magic book looks like it came fresh out of the box. The envoy explains that anyone with a grimoire has a unique energy signature that others can sense. Miria hits him with some cold logic, noting that modern people do not even bother with identification methods since alchemists are basically extinct. Damien is losing his mind internally, because the book he is holding is actually over a century old. He blinks in total disbelief, unable to process how this little girl could call his ancient heirloom a new toy. Damien thinks it is lucky she is an alchemist so he can start asking about the steam engines. Our girl just corrects him, noting she is actually just a pharmacist. The envoy is struggling to believe a child could build a legendary magic sword or a whole carriage. Miria just keeps it moving, reminding him that she was literally hired to explain everything clearly. She breaks out the posters and starts a full lecture on how magic stones power the boiler. The partner looks like his brain is about to short-circuit while trying to process the blueprints. Blaze is sweating bullets, wondering if it is even legal for her to leak state secrets this easily. Bill just looks on with a sweat drop, thinking it might be better if the other side could just build the tech themselves. The tech talk shifts to weapons as our MC calls on her bodyguard to show off some steel. Blaze pulls out the magic sword, figuring that a little intimidation is the best kind of diplomacy. The partner is hitting his mental limit and starts crying about how much he hates studying. He is left wondering if this kind of science is even supposed to be in a magic grimoire. Blaze slams the sword down and the partner is so impressed he tries to touch the blade. Damien immediately loses it, screaming at them to stop waving dangerous weapons around in a public place. Blaze stands his ground while our MC laughs off the envoy's request. She's clearly enjoying the chaos even if she didn't get to show off the weapon's full power. Damien gets a closer look and can't believe what he is seeing. He admits a blade like this is something he only ever expected to see in Legends. Blaze gives a subtle nod while the envoy geeks out over the weapon. This dude is fixated on the sheer scale of the thing. A comparison comes up to a national treasure from the southern continent. It is a blade every swordsman admires, even if they think it is a bit on the thin side. Bill probes for a connection to the famous Four-Leaf family. Damien isn't sure where the merchant is going with this line of questioning. The realization hits as Damien confirms his origins. He admits he is from Four-Leaf, though the connection isn't biological. The legendary Frozen Flame sword gets a reality check. It turns out the artifact was actually just a kitchen tool used for dragon meat takeout. The envoys are left in shock at the revelation. Damien is hitting his mental limit after finding out the truth. Blaze tells him he is being way too dramatic about the situation. Our MC casually mentions her past life connection to the sword, and Damien just points at the wood pile. He has 0 questions left. He falls into a state of total surrender. Miria tells him to stop acting like he is begging for his life. Peace is restored with some legendary curry. The partner is already scarfing it down while it is still hot. Damien tries to stay mad but refuses to share even a single bite. The food is doing more work than the negotiations. One taste and their brains are fried. They are convinced there is a master chef hiding in the kitchen. The realization hits hard. Even the seasoning in this kingdom is powered by alchemy. The partner is already planning the menu for when they get home. Damien just stares at his plate and wonders how he is even supposed to use high-level alchemy for something as simple as cooking. Miria explains that she is only using tiny parts of the process and plans to automate the whole thing later. The southern envoy is stunned that she is actively trying to avoid using magic. She warns them that history shows relying too much on alchemy never ends well. Magic should be treated as a tool rather than the main attraction. As long as they have the right ingredients, anyone can recreate these flavors. Our MC drops some deep wisdom about where the real value lies. She believes the true worth comes from what their land has nurtured and brought forth naturally. She starts listing off all the exotic goods she wants to import while Bill offers to handle the logistics. He asks the envoys if they are down to cooperate with the new business plan. A massive ship sails across the open ocean as the journey begins. The crew prepares a final report to be sent back to their homeland. The partner is still yapping about how amazing the curry was and insists they have to come back. Damien just sits there in silence while the other guy waits for a response. Damien is going through it right now. He is slumped on the stairs, questioning his whole career path. Looking at his book, the age gap between him and Miria makes his lack of skill feel even worse. He knows an alchemist is only as good as their grimoire, and he is falling short. That bitter smirk says it all. He is laughing at how arrogant he used to be when he thought he was the best on the continent. His partner is in full panic mode, begging him to bring back the ego. Damien just mumbles an apology for acting so high and mighty. The pep talk is getting intense as his partner demands he keeps that same energy. Damien is caught completely off guard by the sudden support. His bodyguard is not playing, claiming he is proud to serve the greatest alchemist in their land. He truly believes Damien's knowledge is unmatched. A heavy silence hangs over the deck. Even with his pride in shambles, he is still a hero to the man standing right next to him. His partner tries to ease the tension by saying being smarter than him is not exactly a flex. Damien just calls him an idiot and keeps walking, stepping back onto the ship as they prepare to leave. Back on the southern continent, Damien stands before a massive domed building to give his official report. He keeps his arms crossed, confirming that his investigation into the kingdom is finally over. His superior sits at a desk piled with books, looking stunned by the news. He asks if this girl really possesses the same power as the ancient alchemists, and Damien confirms that is exactly the case. The leader realizes that with her on their side, the kingdom is basically unstoppable. He wants to act immediately, but Damien is hesitant to flip their entire foreign policy based on the talent of one child. Damien admits that he tried to play them and steal their secrets, but they saw through him the whole time. Even though they had him cornered, the kingdom still wanted to play fair and offered a mutual exchange. He remembers Miria explaining that true value comes from what the land itself provides. The memory hits different now as he stands there in silence, letting her wisdom sink in. Staring ahead with a serious expression, Damien makes his choice. He announces that he will take full responsibility for deciding if the kingdom is worthy of their trust. Elizabeth gives our girl a major shout-out for carrying the recent negotiations. Miria just brushes it off, happy that her own profits stayed in the green. This was way more than a simple trade deal. The southern continent was so impressed by Miria that they pushed for a full friendship treaty on the spot. Turns out Damien gave Miria a massive recommendation to his higher-ups. Blaze is fuming that they just decided all this without even checking in with him first. Miria is convinced the power of curry literally saved the day and calls it a curry treaty. Elizabeth drops the bomb that news of her talent is already leaking to the rest of the world. Elizabeth slams a stack of letters on the desk, announcing that every nation on the map is now begging for an audience. Even the Holy Nation is trying to claim Miria as their official saint. The plan is to reject every single request until she turns 15, but Elizabeth wants to know what Miria actually thinks. Our girl is totally over the fame and turns them all down because she is too busy automating chocolate production. Elizabeth just rolls with it while Blaze wonders if she even remembers what her actual job is. Elizabeth wraps up the official business by letting Miria know the Prime Minister will keep things running as usual. Watching our girl closely, the Sword Saint realizes her brilliance reaches way past alchemy. She is essentially a one-girl industrial revolution. Elizabeth resolves to share Miria's talents with the world and suddenly stops in her tracks. Our girl is just vibing, happy to be getting all the praise. Back at the mansion, the confusion about this new chocolate project has everyone baffled. The situation is spiraling way out of hand before it even starts. A white mad bear roars in the wild before getting folded by a single punch. Rumor has it some beast slayer is out here killing these things with nothing but his bare hands. Standing over the fallen beast, the mysterious fighter asks if the capital has caught wind of the rumors yet. And big surprise, the legendary bear slayer is actually our boy Lyle. Location jump. Up at the northern border, Lyle is settling in for the night at a campfire with the troops. He asked Elizabeth for a favor and ended up on monster subjugation duty to start his new training grind. Even after recruit training, he knows he is not ready to go home yet. He grips his pendant, determined to keep pushing until he is actually strong. Back at the mansion, Miria finishes reading his dramatic letter to the group. He promises to return as someone truly useful after his self-imposed exile. Blaze is blindsided by the news of Lyle barehanded bear fight. He and Miria are both stuck in the dark on this one. Miria is more focused on roasting her apprentice than being impressed, claiming he still has a long way to go. Blaze just sighs because the bear slaying is the most trivial part of that entire update. Elizabeth catches a sudden chill while walking through the mansion, probably because Blaze is questioning her sanity. He is worried since the border mountains are crawling with monsters way more dangerous than some random bear. Miria is proud to see her student following in her footsteps, even if he is doing it his own way. She believes he is finally starting to understand what their alchemy brand is all about. Blaze is not quite convinced that hiding in the woods is the secret to magical success. He asks if mountain seclusion is the standard, but Miria shuts that idea down immediately. He starts to realize that Lyle's drive to keep pushing after finishing his brutal training is something else. This kind of dedication is hard to find anywhere else. The girls turn around with a menacing aura that would make a dragon back down. Miria reveals the alchemical secret, declaring that everything comes down to having pure guts. Miria tells Blaze that alchemy isn't the reason she finished all those toilet requests. It's just pure gut. Thanks to Elizabeth, the last 2 months have been a non-stop flood of work. Miria has been low-key grinding herself to death behind the scenes. Autumn is finally here, and the workload is finally starting to chill. Miria was hoping to mentor Lyle on the peaceful life, but now they just have to wait for him to come home. Alma jumps in and claims she's the new slow life supervisor. Blaze is just standing there wondering when that became a real job. Our MC gives a major shout out to Alma for being an absolute carry. It turns out she has just as much guts as Miria does. The sudden praise has Alma blushing like a main character. She tells Miria to stop it, clearly feeling the love. Miria starts listing off Alma's intense daily schedule, from daily potion making to sword training. She mentions the visits to Ted and suddenly stops, realizing something doesn't add up. Miria stops the conversation to ask Alma when she actually takes a break. Since she is the slow life supervisor, the lack of rest is a bad look. Alma admits she might have been skipping out on sleep lately. Blaze just sighs, noting she has picked up all of Miria's worst workaholic habits. She mentions hiding a secret because it is a bit embarrassing. Blaze looks on in confusion while she prepares to reveal the truth. It turns out she has been chugging all her failed intermediate potions just to keep moving. She casually explains that they make her feel better despite being practice batches. The realization hits Miria like a truck. Her apprentice accidentally created energy drinks using alchemy. Miria tries to claim it is just a failed batch with bad ingredients. Blaze is not buying the lie and points out that the color is way too advanced for a failure. One big gulp later and the effects kick in immediately. Miria panics while the energy levels go through the roof. Miria is floating on cloud 9 after chugging that potion, looking like an angel with wings. Blaze is just standing there, lost as his apprentice enters high energy mode. She zooms off into the distance, leaving Blaze staring at the bottle in disbelief. Alma's not helping either, casually offering him her own batch, just in case he wants to join the chaos. Barbara shows up with the tea cart, knocking politely before letting herself in. She is just trying to be a good host, but she has no idea what she is about to walk into. Frozen at the door, she watches the pair zoom around the room like caffeinated projectiles. Miria spots her first and shouts a greeting while still midair. Our MC is vibrating with excitement, holding up a bottle and claiming she just made the discovery of a lifetime. Barbara can only stand there sweating, wondering if the kid has finally lost it. Miria theorizes that if the southern alchemist kept drinking these potions, he might actually reach her level. Blaze is not having it, sarcastically asking if he needs to swim across the ocean to pass on the message. The energy boost is too much to handle, and she is starting to look a little twitchy. She clenches her fists, desperate to find some work to burn off this power surge. Miria finally has her big idea and decides her next project is a full-scale chocolate factory. She plans to get it running before Lyle gets back so she can finally start her slow life. Blaze and Alma are fully on board, charging forward as they prepare for the new grind. Watching the trio dash off like a bunch of energetic projectiles, Barbara can only watch from the doorway. She handles her tea cart while reflecting on the energy of the youth. Back at the workshop, the group settles in for a technical meeting. Miria explains that getting that perfect chocolate shine requires a difficult process called tempering, and she is ready to automate it. Ted finds it funny that she is jumping from steam carriages straight into the candy business. He asks if this chocolate is actually as good as she claims while she just gives him a mischievous laugh. Time for a taste test as she reveals a tray of her latest experiments. Ted notices all the different shapes and finishes, seeing how some look way better than others. Alma immediately starts inhaling the samples, only to shout that one of them is no good. Miria agrees, admitting that failing the process makes the final product look completely shabby. Looking over the table, the difficulty of the task is clear. Miria explains that temperature control is way too demanding for a person, making her plan for automation a top priority. Alma is ready to go all out for Valentine's Day, promising her boss she will make a proper gift soon. Blaze stands there with his arms crossed, racking his brain to remember where he heard that word before. Miria explains the custom of giving chocolate, but Alma immediately hits the panic button. She cannot believe there is a culture where girls just hand out sweets to the people they like. Alma grabs Miria by the shoulders, desperately trying to save her dignity. She insists that you are supposed to give treats to people you are indebted to as well, making the situation even more chaotic. The explanation continues as she notes that friends and family are also part of the deal. It is all about expressing your feelings through chocolate, even if the locals are still confused. Alma goes full tsundere mode, crossing her arms and blushing while telling Ted not to get the wrong idea. She claims it is definitely not like she likes her boss or anything. Miria shoots a look at Blaze and asks if she should hook him up with some treats too. He immediately turns his head, acting like he is far too cool to care about candy. Our MC is not letting him off that easily, calling him out for always complaining that her treats are too sweet. Blaze keeps his back turned, looking annoyed that his tough act got shattered so quickly. Miria thinks about branching out into whiskey bonbons but hits a wall because the local liquor selection is basically just wine and ale. She figures it is not a rush, though rum or brandy would be a total game changer for her sweets. Blaze practically short-circuits when he hears her talking about booze. He demands to know why she is holding back if she can just make it, while our girl calmly reminds him she is still legally a child. This man really asked if she could just use alchemy to age herself up on the spot. Miria just gives him the most deadpan look imaginable, shutting down that logic before it even gets started. Ted tries to play peacemaker, telling everyone to just enjoy the drinks they already have. Blaze is not having it, fuming that his buddy lost his edge and stopped pushing for progress. The crew settles down for some tea while the guys talk it out in the back. Miria wonders if alcohol is actually even that good, noting that Alma is also sticking to the soft drinks for now. Alma gets a core memory of the time she tried a sip and was devastated by how bitter it was. She is tired of adults telling her she is too young to get the hype when the taste is just plain bad. Miria decides to put the brewery project on the back burner for another time. Alma is all for it, knowing that if the boss is the one making the drinks, they are bound to be top tier. Street chatter fills the air as the crew moves through the city. The recent talk of alcohol has Miria seriously weighing the pros and cons of starting her own production. Timing is everything, and she knows finding a master brewer is the real hurdle. A quick trip down memory lane to her office days proves that a drink after a long shift is a non-negotiable. Blaze calls the whole project heresy, while Alma just wants to know if there are sweet versions. Little do they know, a couple of creeps are already tracking their location from a dark alley. It is a match. The sketch and that specific hair curl make it clear they have found the girl. These guys are not here to play, and the order is to bring her in breathing. Hooded creeps lurk in the shadows while watching Miria and Barbara walk by. One of them tells the group to hold up when they ask why they are not attacking yet. The plan is to ambush them once they are isolated. His partner is impressed by the strategy. "Enjoy your last supper," he mutters with a creepy grin. This guy is definitely not here to make friends. Elsewhere, the scene shifts to the mansion grounds at night. Barbara leads Klaus toward their destination under the moonlight. Curiosity hits Klaus as he wonders if this meeting is about food. Barbara admits she does not have the details either. Miria is always full of surprises, so Barbara is hyped to see what she has planned. They finally reach the room and announce their arrival. Inside, the scene is a mess with Alma passed out on the couch while hugging a bottle. Someone screams her name in shock. Barbara panics and tries to pry the bottle away from her passed-out apprentice. The others tell her to just let the girl sleep it off. Miria admits she might have overdone it with the samples. Klaus is amused by the chaos while Barbara starts to realize exactly what is in the bottle. A stern lecture about the legal drinking age follows. Our MC quickly explains it was only supposed to be a taste test, but the apprentice just could not handle it. Since their taster is officially out for the count, Miria offers the glass to Barbara. She looks completely caught off guard by the invitation. Trying to play the professional card, Barbara mentions she is still on duty. Miria shuts that down immediately by pointing out that Blaze drinks like a fish while on the clock. Our girl goes full devil mode and frames the drink as a direct work request. Barbara is left grumbling as she loses the battle against peer pressure. Reluctantly giving in, Barbara assists with the bottle. Blaze is not impressed though, calling the weak white wine nothing more than glorified juice. Blaze is already looking for his share as Miria points out the goods. She presents 2 bottles of red wine, using one as a baseline for her latest alchemical experiment. Using her big brain alchemy, Miria explains how she hacked the winemaking process. She bypassed years of barrel aging by simulating the maturation with lactic acid bacteria. Time for the official taste test as the squad takes their first sips. The reviews are instant hits, with the aroma alone leaving everyone in the room stunned. Barbara is busy drowning her guilt in high-quality wine while Blaze gives his professional stamp of approval. Our MC can only watch as her maid friend goes full throttle on the drinks. Klaus is having a culinary awakening over the complexity of the drink. Seeing his reaction, Miria reveals she has even more prototypes waiting in the wings. The next heavy hitters are revealed as Miria introduces the world of distilled spirits. Bottles of rum and brandy hit the table, promising a much stronger kick than the wine. But she is not just serving drinks, as the spirits get transformed into a boozy dessert syrup. The Savarin cake makes its debut, and the crew is ready to dive in head first. Blaze is acting way too cool for a plate of dessert, but Barbara is not having any of his sass. She tells him to shut it and actually take a bite before he starts complaining. The first bite hits, and the quality is on another level. The aroma and moist texture are enough to make anyone a believer. Klaus is having a full culinary epiphany over how much further sweets can actually evolve. Even Barbara is struggling to keep it together because it is just that good. Our girl catches Blaze finally giving in to the hype and enjoys a little internal victory. The knight is officially speechless as he realizes what he has been missing. But Blaze decides to skip the formalities and just starts chugging the brandy straight from the bottle. Miria is losing her mind because that is definitely not how you are supposed to drink high-tier spirits. Now that he has had a taste, the man is hooked and asks for a 10-bottle restock like it is nothing. Miria can only stare in disbelief at how casual he is being about all her hard work. Klaus spots a mysterious new bottle on the side and gets curious. Miria turns her attention back to her collection to explain the next heavy hitter in her stash. A bottle of whiskey sits on the table as Miria introduces her latest project. She admits the brewing process was a struggle without the right ingredients, so the quality might not be exactly where she wants it yet. The group decides to take a risk and have a taste, but the punch is way stronger than they expected. Barbara is left gasping for air as the alcohol hits her throat, prompting Miria to warn them about the high proof. Klaus quickly recovers and admits he actually loves the intense kick of the drink. Even though he was just coughing his lungs out, he is already thinking about how much better the final version could be. Our MC drops some science on the brewing process, explaining how things like resident bacteria and barrel aroma change the flavor over time. She knows her alchemical shortcuts are good, but they can't fully replace the natural chemical reactions of traditional aging. Miria explains that she needs to find a professional brewer to help take her work to the next level. She catches Blaze trying to finish off the sample and hits him with a heavy side eye, telling him to save some for her potential partners. Klaus mentions he might actually know a professional brewer who can help her out. Miria is hyped by the lead and immediately hands over the rest of her bottles as a thank you gift. Blaze spends a moment staring out the window before deciding to head out for some fresh air. Miria watches him walk away and makes sure to shout a warning about not driving while he is still buzzed. Blaze steps outside to handle the perimeter, and the watchers in the dark realize they have been spotted. The group hesitates as they watch the knight walk directly toward their position. The intruders immediately break formation and scatter in every direction to lose their pursuer. They realize they are outmatched and try to put as much distance between them and the mansion as possible. Our boy is way too fast and manages to pin one of the runners down for a quick chat. He wants to know who exactly sent a team this skilled to do a simple kidnapping job. The captive tries to play it off as a solo act, but his sloppy excuse does not move the needle for the night. Blaze knows these guys have professional training even if their presence was not perfectly masked. The man threatens that his big brother will not let this slide, accidentally confirming he is part of a larger organization. Blaze just scoffs at the warning and tells the amateur he chose the wrong target to mess with. Instead of being scared, the guy just starts smirking and drops a cryptic warning about others also being on the hunt. He tells Blaze to live in fear, leaving the knight wondering just how deep this conspiracy goes. Blaze decides to let the royal guards handle the formal interrogation while he heads back inside. As the captive is hauled away, a small crumpled note is left behind on the pavement. Blaze stares at the crumpled piece of paper he just found. Something about the contents has him completely lost for words. It is a wanted poster featuring a suspiciously cute drawing of our MC. The bounty on her head is so massive that everyone in the room starts losing their minds. Miria just stares at the sketch and wonders if she accidentally committed a dining and dash. Alma is more impressed by the math needed to rack up that much debt over a few meals. Blaze clarifies that this is not an official government document. Alma jokes that maybe Miria blew up an important building during one of her wild experiments. The vibe shifts instantly when he reveals the poster actually came from the Dark Guild. The realization that professional criminals are hunting her brings a sudden chill to the room. Miria is less than impressed and figures they are just some low-tier scammers. Blaze has to set her straight because these guys do not just send annoying emails. This group is made up of hardcore assassins and kidnappers who will do anything for a payday. They are a squad of hooded shadows lurking in the dark for their next target. Miria is actually having the time of her life looking at her own wanted poster. She brags about her Lee line training and even claims she can melt right through handcuffs. Blaze stands there wondering why he is the only one taking the situation seriously. Blaze just sighs because most people do not expect a little girl to be out here crushing huge trees with her bare hands. Alma starts brainstorming better ways to kidnap her master and figures some good food would do the trick. Our boy has to give the MC a basic lecture on stranger danger and tells her not to follow anyone offering candy. She promises she won't go, but Alma is not convinced by that half-hearted answer. She drops a cheeky wink and reminds Blaze that his entire job is to be her professional bodyguard. Our boy just stands there sweating under the pressure of being her only line of defense. Blaze is officially done with their carefree attitude as Miria starts posing like the sketch on the poster. Alma is impressed by the accuracy and notes they have the exact same face. Elsewhere, at a local tavern, a couple of low-level thugs are losing it and crying for their big brother. Their partner Troy got snatched up by the Knights after his failed kidnapping attempt. A mysterious masked man looks on with disappointment. He is not surprised Troy got caught because the guy has always been the slow one of the group. Blood strictly checks his crew for acting on their own and making the whole team look like amateurs. The thugs defend themselves by saying their usual scams just aren't hitting anymore and they needed a win. They are desperate to get out of the gutters with one big score. The squad is in total disbelief that someone actually managed to land a hit on their leader. They keep asking for names, but Blood stays silent as the frustration of the loss settles in. The vibe in the tavern turns heavy as reality finally hits. A chilling promise fills the room as he settles on his next move. He is not just looking for a rematch, he is coming straight for that guy's head. The casual criminals are officially out of their league as he shifts into high gear. While his minions chatter about his legendary status, he is busy picking apart the silver-haired guard's movements. He knows that warrior was not just some random capital guard based on how he carried himself. The professional in him is already looking for an opening. The sound of a drink sliding across the table marks the moment he officially accepts the job. His crew is left lagging behind, barely able to process the sudden change in atmosphere. He is already mentally checked out and ready for the hunt. Blaze Garfield is finally identified as the man standing between them and the target. Knowing the name only seems to sharpen his focus as he prepares for the inevitable clash. This mission just went from a simple kidnapping to a high-stakes confrontation. He brushes off his underlings as he heads for the door, telling them Blaze is way out of their league. They are left standing there scratching their heads, not even recognizing the legendary name. The professional hunt is officially on. Blood calls out his crew for their cowardice before admitting he can't win a fair fight against Blaze either. The thugs are stunned into silence by their leader's blunt assessment. A sinister smirk creeps across his face as he suggests that a head-on collision isn't the only way to win. His minions instantly perk up, sensing a dirty trick in the works. He points a finger and lays out the dirty work, ordering them to kidnap the alchemist's family from outside the capital. The thugs snap to attention, ready to execute the low blow. They rush out of the tavern with a cheer, desperate to earn their keep. Blood stays behind in the shadows, letting his underlings do the legwork. While the tavern carries on around him, Blood's grip tightens around his wooden mug. He reminds himself that he's the one truly risking his life here. The mug shatters in his fist as he growls out Blaze Garfield's name. This isn't just business anymore, it's a personal vendetta that's been brewing for a long time. Back at the mansion, the chocolate factory project has officially hit the production phase. Miria is currently dealing with major jaw fatigue while staring at her hoard of sweets. Alma is losing it after hearing that overeating leads to pimples. Miria just laughs and tells her she should have seen it coming. Our girl knows she has a beauty potion that would clear that skin up in seconds. She keeps it a secret though, because her apprentice would just go right back to the buffet. Alma tries to find a cheat code with whiskey bonbons. Miria points out that getting drunk on candy is not the upgrade she thinks it is. Chilling on the sofa, she explains the whiskey project is still in the prototype phase. It will be a long time before they're eating liquor-filled chocolates. Even with alchemy, Miria admits that natural ingredients just hit different. Time to stop the shortcuts and get the real deal. She breaks down the science of making malt extract. It involves soaking barley, roasting peat for aroma, and mixing the ground results with warm water. Miria is back on her ingredient grind, eyeing the wetlands for peat and some high-quality barley. She is basically planning a whole logistics route to the capital for that perfect chocolate flavor. Just as she is lamenting her lack of travel permits, a sharp knock hits the door. Someone is clearly in a hurry to see our girl. Elizabeth and Blaze burst into the room with some high-stakes news. Apparently, word has finally reached them about the Dark Guild incident. Whipping out a sketch of the suspect, Elizabeth tells everyone to stay alert. The only problem is the drawing looks like a tiny mascot instead of a dangerous criminal. Instead of being scared, Mirio is obsessed with how cute the drawing looks. Elizabeth is visibly dying inside while the star background kicks in. Our girl cannot believe the legendary sword saint actually drew this herself. Playing it off, Elizabeth claims she was actually going for a menacing vibe. The grave mistake of making a killer look adorable has the legendary knight hanging her head in shame. It is a rare moment of weakness for the strongest warrior in the kingdom. Elizabeth stares at her masterpiece with a sigh, realizing her drawing skills are way too cute for a serious wanted notice. Apparently everyone thought the sketch was just a travel brochure made by a child, so she decides to redo it properly. Our girl is obsessed with how adorable the drawing is and begs to keep it if it is destined for the trash. Elizabeth is so caught off guard by the hype that she decides they might as well use the cute sketch for the official notice anyway. Safety talk starts up with the suggestion that Miria should lay low outside the capital until things settle down. She is not sweating it though, confident that she and Blaze can handle whatever comes their way. Security is getting tightened around the research building just to be safe. Elizabeth then drops a hint, mentioning there is one more specific reason she stopped by today. The knight reveals she went on a secret inspection of the new chocolate production machine. Miria is instantly on edge, realizing her high-tech candy operation has been spotted. Elizabeth cannot believe a literal steam engine is being used just to automate candy making. Miria stays quiet as the legendary knight breaks down the level of engineering in front of her. Leaning in close, Elizabeth suggests applying that same mechanism to process wheat into flour. It is a massive pivot from sweets to a national food supply, and she is clearly thinking big. Miria is genuinely impressed by Elizabeth's strategic thinking. She decides to leave the project in the knight's hands while acknowledging her growth. Sudden plot twist. Miria decides to bail and go home because she is not about that assassin life, leaving everyone else completely stunned. The flower project is getting put on the back burner. Elizabeth accepts the delay while Miria handles her tactical retreat. The squad starts brainstorming a pivot to the alcohol business. Elizabeth is surprisingly down for the trip since she needed to hunt for some peat anyway. Mentioning booze was all the motivation Blaze needed. He grabs the squad and starts sprinting toward the exit before anyone can even process the plan. Evacuation vibes are in full effect. The crew piles onto the prototype vehicle for the most chaotic road trip of the season. Technical difficulties immediately. Blaze realizes the hard way that this machine was definitely not built to carry 3 people at once. Miria breaks the news to Alma that she has to stay behind since this is a high-stakes evacuation. With a final wave from the mansion, the squad heads out. Elizabeth is not leaving without her snacks though, showing off a souvenir bag for the road. Alma can only watch as the legendary knight prepares to bail. Blaze is really sending it, tearing through the countryside at a speed that has Miria begging for her life. Safety is not on the menu today. Clinging to the back, our MC points out that driving a loud engine is the opposite of staying low profile. Our boy Blaze has to admit his stealth skills are at 0. The plan is to hit coal light, but first they are scouting the river for some peat. It is a scenic route past the local cows while they navigate the path ahead. Miria is treating this like a straight-up vacation and starts demanding detours for herb hunting. She is hyped to show off the best spots near her hometown. As they cruise, she realizes Blaze has never actually seen where she grew up. He only stepped in as her guardian after she had already moved to the city. Miria tells Blaze to keep his eyes on the road and quit the distracted driving. Safety first for our alchemist. Blaze admits he just cannot picture her ever living a normal life. She insists she was just a simple farmer daughter with actual friends back then. Our boy Blaze is clearly having a hard time believing that last part. Back in the day, she was apparently suppressing her alchemist powers to fit in. Blaze wonders if she and her friends were just playing pretend scientists together. She tells him to stop acting like their current situation is anything out of the ordinary. She is definitely sticking to her story. A wave of nostalgia hits as they keep driving. It has been a long time since she left the village behind. She remembers her next-door neighbor crying her eyes out when she finally left home. A rare look at her old life before all the chaos. Miria opens up about her past as they cruise through the countryside. She lost her parents when she was just a kid, but luckily, a kind neighbor stepped in to raise her like family. A year has flown by since she left her village behind. Looking back at those warm memories, our MC wonders how the people who cared for her are doing now. Back in the present, Blaze keeps a steady hand on the throttle as they put more distance between them and the capital. Miria thinks it is finally time to stop worrying and just enjoy their freedom for a change. Back at the village, the chief stops by Kate's house with a bowl of fresh vegetables. He finds her struggling and coughing, barely able to keep herself together. Seeing her state, the old man tells her she does not have to push herself so hard alone. He offers her a place to stay with his family whenever things get too tough. Kate stays behind at her mother's grave, surrounded by flowers. She knows her mom would be lonely if she just moved away and left her all by herself. The chief gives her a gentle pat on the head before heading out for the day. He admits that she reminds him of Miria, who always insisted on handling every problem on her own. The village chief walks away from the cottage, clearly worried about the girl inside. If her heart doesn't start to heal soon, things are going to get pretty dark for her. Moving down the path, the old man can't help but wish Miria was still around to make things right. A sudden voice breaks the silence, asking for a moment of his time. Our boy stops and turns around, realizing he is no longer alone out here. Two hooded strangers show up right at the house, pointing like they have finally found their target. They confirm this is the place where Miria lives, and it looks like the hands of evil are finally closing in. Miria finally makes it back to her home village, and the excitement is written all over her face. She is more than ready to revisit her roots. Blaze keeps a low profile as they sneak around the back of the cottage. He reminds her to stay quiet to avoid drawing any unwanted attention from the neighbors. Blaze wonders why they are acting like intruders at her own house, but Miria insists on being stealthy. She does not want to cause a local panic by announcing her return too early. Miria drops some deep wisdom about the complexity of a girl's heart while Blaze just tries to keep up. It is a whole mood, honestly. Transitioning to a quieter part of the property, Miria takes a somber moment to leave flowers at a grave. Blaze watches from a distance, respecting the heavy weight of the moment. The mission continues as Miria returns with a fresh pot of barley in hand. Blaze can hardly believe she finished the task that quickly. Elsewhere, the grind for the rest of their materials proved much tougher. They spent 3 full days hunting down medicinal herbs and digging up peat to complete their collection. Blaze suggests taking a break, but Miria is on a mission to finish up and leave as soon as possible. A sudden shout from a villager ruins their stealthy vibes just as Miria was reminiscing about her favorite cow, Miko. The village chief charges in ready for a fight, but the mood shifts instantly when he realizes it is just Miria standing there. The vibe gets heavy when the chief reveals that some shady people were snooping around her house, and they already kidnapped her friend Kate. Apparently the thugs snatched the poor girl the moment they realized she was close with Miria, and the villagers have been searching for her ever since. Miria panics and asks about the neighbor lady she grew up with, but the chief looks away with a heavy heart. The tragedy is deeper than she thought, as her old neighbor passed away from an illness not long after Miria originally moved to the city. The truth hits Miria hard when she realizes her neighbor was targeted just for being close to her. The chief confirms the guild was specifically hunting for her relatives. The vibe in the village is heavy as everyone feels responsible for the kidnapping. Even Blaze is surprised they tracked her this far, and he keeps a close eye on Miria as she processes the news. Blaze keeps it real and tells her they need to head back to the capital immediately. He explains that the thugs are likely planning to use Kate as a hostage to control them. Miria just looks down and agrees. Even with the drama, Miria is glad she got a moment with her old friends. The villagers tell her to come back and stay for a real visit once Kate is safe. She gives them a final wave and prepares to head out. Just as they are about to leave, the chief stops Blaze to pull him aside. Miria looks back, wondering what the old man has to say. The chief bows his head and pleads for the night to protect both Miria and Kate. Blaze looks him in the eye and tells him to leave it all to him. They hop back on their machine and floor it toward the city. Miria knows a normal horse would take days to make this trip, but going flat out gives them a real shot at catching the kidnappers. The Dark Guild is officially cleaning house, leaving the mansion guards folded like laundry. One thug is already celebrating the easy win, praising his leader for such a clean sweep. Blood isn't about to go on a wild goose chase. He orders the squad to stay put and turn the mansion into a spider web, camping the objective until the alchemist and her knight return. Looking down at Kate, the henchmen are seriously doubting the plan. They're worried this random kid isn't actually related to their target, making her pretty much useless as leverage. The connection is paper thin, as she just lived in the house next to Miria's old spot. The thugs are not feeling the vibe, basically calling her a filler character with zero value. Blood is losing brain cells listening to his team's messy report. He is honestly embarrassed to be seen with these dudes after they reveal their intel was total garbage and their target's family is already dead. Since Kate isn't enough, they have dragged Almo into the mess as a substitute hostage. The two girls are now stuck in the worst possible situation while the thugs prep their next move. Kate finally wakes up to a nightmare, squinting as she realizes she is surrounded by hooded strangers. The squad is already roasting her, calling her completely useless before she even gets her bearings. Kate wakes up to a total nightmare, hearing some thug joke about using her to feed his garden. She is not having it and starts screaming while the kidnappers just get annoyed that she is conscious. Blood has zero patience and orders his men to shut her up immediately. Kate tries to bolt, showing off some surprising speed despite having her hands tied. She starts shouting about who these weirdos are and where they took her. The goons are having a rough time keeping up with her as she scrambles to stay out of their reach. One thug finally catches her and declares she is a worthless hostage. Blood decides he is done talking and draws his sword to finish the job. The cold steel of a blade gets way too close for comfort, making the tension in the room spike. Kate braces herself for the worst as she realizes her life is on the line. A sudden knocking at the door kills the mood, catching the entire group off guard. Blood looks back with genuine confusion while Kate's attention snaps to the entrance. The thugs assume the alchemist finally showed up to save the day, calling Kate one lucky kid. They prepare to welcome their guest, thinking everything is going exactly to plan. A loud knock echoes through the air, but the house remains completely silent. The visitor stands at the entrance, starting to feel like something is wrong. How weird. Nobody is coming out. The mystery guest is actually a young man returning home after 4 months away. He forces a smile while scratching his head, wondering if his neighbors just up and moved without telling him. A young man returns home after 4 months away, only to find the house eerily silent while a hooded figure watches from the shadows. Inside, the kidnappers are on edge, asking if the alchemist or the knight they have been tracking have finally shown up. Peeking out, the boss is immediately disappointed, calling the guest a shabby green-haired brat while clicking his tongue in annoyance. Cleaning up witnesses is the new priority, and they prepare a trap to lure the kid inside so they can finish him off quietly. A cold blade meets Kate's throat as blood warns her to stay silent if she wants to keep living. Reaching the entrance, the boy notices the door is already unlocked and starts to push it open as a hooded man waits in the darkness with a dagger. A cheerful greeting is cut short when Kate manages a desperate scream, telling him to stay far away from the house. Our boy pulls off a Matrix-level dodge as the hooded creep misses by a mile. Scanning the room, he realizes his childhood home is packed with dangerous strangers. Who even are you guys? He asks, trying to make sense of the chaos. Sensing the heat, he immediately drops into a full bow and begs for his life. He swears he just walked into the wrong house and definitely isn't there to cause trouble. Something finally clicks when he notices the girls tied up in the corner. His brain starts buffering as he realizes this isn't just a simple mix-up. The kidnappers are just as confused as he is, wondering what kind of weirdo they just caught. The boss just clicks his tongue in annoyance. Blood gets tired of the noise and moves to shut the girl up for good. Before the blade can even land, the kid scoops her up and zips to the other side of the room. He is way faster than he looks. He sets her down gently and catches his breath. No need for thanks because they are both in the same boat now. Blood narrows his eyes, asking if the kid is working with a certain alchemist. He doesn't hesitate and proudly claims he is her disciple. Our boy is sweating bullets as he tries to channel his inner master. He figures the best move is to just beat everyone up and tie them up, exactly like he was taught. The masked leader is straight up laughing, asking if a simple pharmacist student really wants to catch these hands. Lyle squares up and nervously accepts the challenge. Our apprentice lands a clean hit that actually staggers the boss. Blood is caught off guard by the power but quickly recovers to draw his blade for real. Steel meets bone as the boss goes all out, but our boy is not backing down. The goons and Kate can only watch in shock as the supposed weakling holds his own against a pro. Lyle is busy checking his own minor scratches, missing the fact that he just broke a top-tier weapon. On the other side, Blood stares in horror as his sword snaps in half. Realization finally hits as he wonders if he accidentally became a high-level player. He starts bowing and apologizing for breaking the guy's gear while the boss stands there stunned. The masked guy is losing his mind and screaming at his men to jump in. Our boy just rubs his head and gives a sheepish smile, looking way too casual for a life-or-death situation. Miria tries to play peacemaker as the goons charge in with knives. They are not interested in talking and just want all the smoke. Lyle just stands there while the thugs literally knock themselves out on his head. Miria is lagging, trying to process how her peaceful apprentice just soloed a whole squad. Panic mode engaged. Miria rushes into the room swinging her staff and hoping everyone is still in one piece. He is just chilling on the floor like he did not just drop 3 grown men. Lyle casually welcomes his master home while the kidnappers are busy catching their breath on the ground. Miria tries to lecture him for being reckless, but Lyle just points at the trash on the floor. The knight stands ready to back them up as the tension peaks. The vibe shifts when the masked leader recognizes the knight. Blaze looks down at him with zero interest while the boss starts sweating under his mask. Seeing the odds are stacked, Blood pulls a tactical retreat and books it for the exit. Miria shouts for him to wait, but the dude is already gone. Blaze decides to give chase while Lyle tells his master to go check on the others. The boy is banged up but insists he is fine for now. The knight sprints off to finish the job as Miria makes a beeline for her friend. She shouts her name while closing the distance. Tears start flowing as the two are finally reunited. Miria pulls her into a hug and mentions how the whole village has been worried about her. Kate starts yelling about how her friend left the village in the first place. She begins rambling about the chief and how she tried to handle everything on her own. The girl is a waterfall of tears at this point as she explains her side of the story. Miria just listens and realizes how much her friend has been carrying. Elsewhere, the chase comes to a screeching halt in a tight alleyway. Blood realizes he is trapped in size at the brick wall blocking his escape. Standing tall and looking cool, Blaze lets him know the game is officially over. There is nowhere left for the masked leader to run. Blood is already celebrating his victory and tells the knight that his time is up. Blaze just stares him down and admits the dude looks familiar. Our knight digs through his memories and asks if they met at a frontier selection tournament. Seeing that old battle in his head makes the villain look even more triggered. Blood is actually happy he was remembered, but his ego takes a hit immediately. Blaze notes how far he has fallen from being a candidate to a common thug. Bitter about the past, Blood rants about how things could have been different if Blaze had stayed home. He slams a hidden switch and tells the knight to enjoy his final moments. Our boy is not even surprised when a secret passage opens up. The villain makes a run for it into the shadows while Blaze keeps his eyes locked on the prize. Standing at the edge of a dark hallway, the knight calls out the obvious trap. He is not shaking, he is just waiting for the right moment to move. Back at a local tavern, the villain is panting hard while trying to keep a low profile. The locals think he is just some guy named Brad who had a few too many drinks. Blood plays the sorry for dragging you into this card while a mysterious boot steps into the room. This newcomer is already judging the decor, mentioning how this whole operation has been going on for way too long. Blaze officially crashes the party, casually noting that he just found himself a dark guild hideout. The thugs are physically shaking as they realize their secret lair just got exposed by a high-tier knight. Blood tells his crew that if they let this man walk out alive, it is curtains for everyone. Bandana Bro is not happy about the heat, calling his boss a bastard and stressing about the consequences of this mess. A massive crowd of thugs piles into the room, convinced that their numbers are enough to take down one man. Eye Patch Dude gets cocky, asking if the knight really thinks he can handle this many people by himself. Closing his eyes, Blaze mentions it is a relief that this place is so far away from the capital. Blood just stands there looking confused, totally missing the danger flags the knight is throwing out. The knight lunges forward with zero hesitation, his blade already cutting through the air. He drops a quick warning that he cannot guarantee anyone's survival once the real fun starts. "Stay down if you don't want to die," Blaze yells as he swings his sword. A blinding flash engulfs the room, leaving Blood and his crew reeling from the sheer force of the attack. A pillar of light slams into the town, shaking the very ground. The roar of thunder echoes across the hills as the hideout is leveled. Back in the safety of a bedroom, Kate rests up after her terrible time as a hostage for the Dark Guild. Miria and Lyle stay close, making sure their friend is actually okay. Miria gives Lyle all the credit for the save, though she admits it was mostly just lucky timing. She turns to Kate with a warm smile to thank her, getting a shy mumble in return. Our boy Lyle stays humble, claiming Kate actually saved him by shouting a warning despite the danger she was in. This makes Kate blush hard while Miria teases her about the sudden glow-up in courage. Miria rewards the bravery with some head pats, leaving Kate a giggling mess while Lyle watches on. Their peace is cut short when a sudden knock echoes through the room. The group looks toward the noise as the door clicks open. Blaze stands there with a serious look, ready to move on to the next order of business. Heading out into the hallway, the team starts walking while discussing the recent fireworks. Miria brings up the clear signs of his raging sword, and Blaze just gives a blunt nod. The scene shifts to the wreckage of the guild hideout, now just a smoking hole in the ground that drew every guard in the city. Miria admits she never thought he would go that hard on his own. Blaze delivers a stern lecture about the dangers of jumping into a fight alone, noticing the kid is starting to act just like his master. Lyle just laughs it off while clutching a giant bag of loot. Miria delivers some proud head pats to her fast-growing students. Even with everyone safe, Blaze admits he was terrified when he saw them surrounded by bandits. With the team finally back together, Miria calls for a proper celebration. Lyle agrees and starts digging through his pack for a special souvenir. The room goes silent as Lyle pulls out a literal dragon heart. Blaze and Miria can only stare at the massive organ as it hits the table with a wet squish. Blaze stares in disbelief at the prize on the table, demanding to know where a trainee even finds something that legendary. Lyle casually explains it was just a side quest during his mountain training. Apparently, our boy got into a half-day brawl with the winged beast after surviving a nasty bite. Scaling cliffs and slaying monsters is just another day of practice for him. Blaze asks if this is the new normal for alchemists while Lyle defends himself. He insists his energy blew the missing chunk away and he definitely did not try to eat it. Blaze crosses his arms and asks if the graduation exam is finally over. Miria just stands there in silence while trying to process the level of overkill. She clarifies that the task was actually about herb gathering, not starting a war with a dragon. Lyle hangs his head in regret as he realizes he completely missed the point of the mission. Our boy gets hit with the ultimate reality check when Miria reveals he hunted the wrong monster. Holding up the prize, she explains it was actually just a wyvern, leaving him totally stunned. Apparently, real dragons are massive 5-meter beasts while his catch was barely a 3-meter hatchling. Looking through the new records in the grimoire, Miria can tell exactly how much effort he put in. She tells him with a smile that his safe return is the best gift she could ask for. Lyle is practically moved to tears by the kind words, but Blaze is just standing there judging the vibe. He thinks the situation is way too ridiculous to be this heartwarming. A few days pass and the mansion is back to its usual lively state with plenty of chatter. Kate is fully in her element. She sneaks into the kitchen and starts housing snacks before anyone can stop her. Caught in 4K, Barbara delivers a lecture on professionalism while the girl tries to play it cool. Blaze is skeptical of the new hire. Miria just laughs it off and calls it a temporary study period. The mansion food is way too good to leave. Barbara is losing her mind because Kate keeps talking to the bosses like they are old roommates. Blaze mentions that noble daughters are lining up for this job. Miria is not interested in anything that's stiff and prefers keeping her friends close. This is personal for our girl. She wants to look after Kate as a way to honor the woman who raised her back in the village. Miria claims this is just a one-time thing. Blaze just smirks because he knows her meddling is a full-time job. Blaze is officially offloading the heavy lifting. He tells her he is leaving the VPs to her, leaving Miria wondering how many times he has pulled this move. Elizabeth jumps in to keep the peace. She has already got the princess's backing and plans to do the talking herself. Watching him work, Miria realizes her protector has basically turned into a full-time manager. Of course, our boy Blaze isn't working for free. He puts his hand out and asks for that new liquor they talked about as his reward. Klaus looks like he just won the lottery with that bottle. Blaze is stressing over the deferred payment, while Miria thinks it might take at least 2 years to actually pay him out. The door swings open and the guest of honor finally makes her debut. Kate walks in wearing her new uniform as Miria greets her with pure excitement. Look at that spread. Kate is staring down a pile of strawberry waffles and wondering if the master really eats like this every single day. Things take a weirdly formal turn. Kate bows low and starts using formal titles, which is a massive shift from their usual friendship. Miria shuts down the formal talk. Just Miria is fine. Making it clear who the real guest of honor is, she leaves Kate absolutely beaming. Glasses go up as the toast begins. Well then, Blaze takes one last look to make sure the squad is ready. Is everyone ready? With the chaos officially over, the celebration finally gets underway. Shall we start the party? That's it for today, guys! If you made it to the end, drop a W in the comments so I know you're real ones. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps the channel grow. Until then, keep on cooking.